Oh my goodness gracious, let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dew. I've been down on bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. He spoke to me with a voice so sweet, I thought I heard the shuffle of angels' feet. He called my name and my heart stood still when he said, John, go do my will. Go tell that long-tongued liar, go and tell that midnight rider, tell the rambler, the
welcome,
gambler,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is the 27-hour transmission. We've got coming up so many amazing people joining us. We've had Joel Skousen, Tarpley, Albrecht. We've got coming up in an hour George Noory, then David Icke. He's over in New Zealand, so we're playing with times right now. He may be on then or later. Mike Adams then, during real prime time, will sit in for 2 hours with us while I take my first break. And he's going to be interviewing a bunch of folks. Mike Adams always informed with a bunch of breaking news. We've got Alfred Adask then joining us. We've got a bunch of time for open phones as well. Texe Mars, a bunch of other people, Springmeier, Aaron Dykes, Corbett, Watson, Reeves, Celente, Jim Mars, Alan Watt, Bob Chapman. And we're going to premiere, and of course, Aaron always has to make something the very best and fancy, which is great. In the last 6 months, he's worked off and on this interview with Charlotte Iserbyt dealing with Skull and Bones. A lot of this has never been reported before. She's the person that gave Anthony Sutton the stuff that he put out that blew it wide open. Well, her dad was Skull and Bones and some other family, and she went into more detail than anybody ever has. And Aaron has been off and on, like the 3 or 4 days, working on this, working on it. There's nothing like a deadline to get something done because he's always busy doing other videos and other reports, just like I am. You know, it's like it's hard to do new stuff or get other things done because you're always tied down with a bunch of other work. That's why we're doing this MoneyBomb, to hire another video editor, another researcher, reporter, trying to find somebody like Aaron Dykes who understands all this stuff. We want to hire 4 or 5 more people. So we also have some depth, a little bit of depth, so it's not just all of us constantly killing ourselves to get this info out, and a bunch of equipment we need to get, and a few crew members around here deserve a little raise or something. It's always good. Got to do that for their hard fighting. So again, if you believe in what we're doing, it's free will. You're not forced to do it like the government does, coming and taking your money and making you do it. Donate at Infowars.com. You can also go to InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. And you can donate $5, $10,000. But I do not want people donating who are in bad straits right now. I'm not like the government that comes and takes your house when you can't pay your bills or your property tax. Or I'm not like the government that, I'm here saying if you have means and you like what we're doing and you want to see more of it and you appreciate the level that we're contending with the globalist at, then I absolutely want to expand what we're doing. And if you believe in that, please donate at Infowars.com or at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. You can also donate by buying the books, the T-shirts, the bumper stickers. I mean, at a certain point, the bumper stickers we actually make no money on. No money on. You'll notice our prices just go down, 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 down. Because all I care about is shipping masses of stuff out that warehouse. It's not about the money. I mean, it's okay to have a car that's, 3 or 4 years old so it doesn't break down. It's nice to have a house that's comfortable, have a mattress that is comfortable. But, you notice you don't see me wearing makeup here. You notice I'm not worried my hair's falling out. I'm not very worldly, folks, unless in a worldly sense, I like to knock bullies' teeth out, I guess, physically or politically. The point is that I want to wage war on these people via the info war. I know they're coming in with the censorship, the control. We need to launch more operations, more tentacles, because they've got their tentacles everywhere. We need to put our runners out even more and continue to replicate what we're doing and expanding it, because we are hitting pay dirt in the info war. We are hurting the globalists. They absolutely don't know what to do. They're hitting us from every angle with COINTELPRO, disinformation operatives, attacks, and it's just not working. In fact, it's actually advertised us in who we are and what we're doing here at the info war. So again, my friends, I've been on air now, for only 4 hours. I tell you, it's Murphy's Law that I usually don't wake up in the middle of the night, can't go back to sleep. I woke up at 4 a.m., tried to go back to sleep, and I actually feel hammered today. But I'll hit my second and third and fourth wind. I really don't feel worthy to be doing this. I mean, I'm bringing you such incredible news. Such amazing, earth-shattering things are now unfolding. And I am just exhausted. I mean, we're up here till 9, 10 o'clock every night now. My children are growing up in front of me, and I hardly see them one day a week. And I'm not complaining. It's just that I'm throwing my full self into this and against this. And you have made us strong with your support, buying the books, the videos, spreading the word about the show. You are the reason we've had this much success. Now, we're small, but we're strong. Our organization is small. Our amount of money is small compared to large institutions. But the bang for the buck, we are really having a huge effect. Now, we've launched our internal phone system. I tried to get the 5 or 6 calls at Genesis that were the longest holding over so we could take your calls. That phone system will be up where I can see it soon. I've got a whole cornucopia of news I haven't even gotten to yet. After I take calls, I will. We got a bunch of guests coming up, obviously, as well. But I want to encourage all of the people that are out there to be part of what we're doing. And there's nothing like donating to it to help us get this job done. So if you've donated in past money bombs and you want to see us continue, who can deny we've expanded? We've launched more operations, the nightly news, hired more people, reporters, and that we're reaching people at a level never before imagined. And I now know that we can go even higher in this fight. And there's great danger associated with that, but I'm not going to do this at half speed. I'm going all the way here. That's why we do a 27-hour transmission. That's what it's really all about, and I couldn't do it without your support and the great job the crew does. But like I said, I want to get some more crew people so we're not always stumbling around exhausted. I want to get some more equipment. So donate right now at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. A lot of you middle class and wealthy people out there who know this stuff's all real and you listen to the show, but you sit back there and think you're going to stay on the fence. If you're not going to donate or spread the word about this show or buy one of my DVDs and make 1,000 copies of it and give it to people you know, you better go broker some time. It's cheap on local AM station and do your own show. You better start a website. You better start a local newspaper. You better go down to city council. I'm telling you, we need all good men and women to come to the aid of humanity. This is all in right now. This is an all-in operation. I want everybody to go to Infowars.com and order the bumper stickers. We've got them at cost, whether it's packs of 15 or 1,000. It's all available there right now at Infowars.com to help spread this message, to get out front. Warrantless checkpoints, microphones in the trees and the telephone poles, total control, cancer viruses and the vaccines, GMO everywhere. I mean, wars, torture, secret arrest, a Nobel Peace Prize winner launching all these wars. I mean, God almighty, we got to turn this around together. And we're so close. People now know about the Federal Reserve. They now know about the New World Order. The globalists are now very unpopular. A decade ago, nobody even knew who they were. Maybe 2% of the population. We have come so far with the move to audit the Fed and abolish it. We can go so much further together. But more importantly than even donating, spread the word about Infowars.com. Spread the word about PrisonPlanet.tv. Spread the word about our free YouTube channel with 150 million views and growing just on one channel, where it's all posted right there too. Just appreciate the information. Realize people have gone through a lot of trouble to bring you this. A lot of people died to bring you this information. I've interviewed a lot of people who've been murdered, okay? But we're standing in the sunshine, out in the light, as Jim Garrison said, that's the best defense. Now, I want to show you just a smattering of some of what we've done. Then we're going to come back after a few of these and go right to your calls. The number to join us is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-ALEX. And you'll be on, those of you we don't get to right away, you'll be on with Noory, you'll be on with David Icke, all the folks that are coming up. Mike Adams is coming up as well. I've got 12 of the reports Darren McBrain just happened to grab. Special reports, subliminal messages from the nightly news, Denver Airport, New World Order art, citizens punished for recording bad cops, 9/11 street poll, Facebook, pre-crime scanner technology, Public reacts to Fed raids on Gibson guitars, NFL grope downs. Take this first one. We're going to play 3 or 4 of these. Whatever Jaron wants to play first. I told him the ones I wanted, and I can't remember now. Which ones? Yeah, we're going to play Subliminal first, and I remembered that one. But the point is, after you watch this, record it and pause it, because you see the Sharpie ad, and it says, stop protesting, and then a guy holds a sign up saying now. And it's all subliminal. And you see the stuff where Ron Paul supporters are drug addicts. I mean, this is anything you watch that's globalist funded. 99% of these national shows have it. I mean, it is just everywhere. And because your subconscious mind absorbs it, the rest doesn't. We got that report. We'll play a few more and then come back and go to your phone calls. And we'll take a lot of calls throughout the evening. We're going to start going to calls right now. But again, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Please get that address. Email it out to everybody. It's kind of had some problems because of all the hits it's getting. You can also send out Infowars.com. There's the 27-hour marathon broadcast link in red. That has the main stream, the video stream, and then all the backups under it. You can send that link out as well to everybody you know. But we'll be right back after a few of these Infowars Nightly News reports, followed by Darren McBreen and others. And we want to get more reporters and just expand this, because we're reaching millions of people with this. And it's not just Alex Jones up here reading news and ranting and raving and putting out 2 films a year. This way we're hitting them every night with information like this, because nobody else has stepped up to do it.
Brought to you in living color. Kennedy died at 1 p.m. There were 2 little girls.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation. Every day, our senses are being constantly bombarded by subliminal messages that are found in TV, movies, and advertisements. The subliminal messages we are subjected to are unrecognizable by the conscious mind and only recognizable in our subconscious mind. The messages and imagery are passively absorbed and then stored in our subconscious, where propagandists deliberately implant artificial thoughts, which in turn can affect our actions and attitudes later in life. Experiments have shown that less than 1 minute after the viewer begins to watch television, the brain switches from beta-level consciousness, associated with active and logical thought, to alpha level, which is associated with passive acceptance and suggestibility. This is why advertisers spend billions of dollars a year on commercials, as well as product placement within TV shows. Political messages are implanted in fictional TV programs as the relaxed, meditative state of the viewer is receptive to the programming. One example is AMC's Breaking Bad television series, as it depicts a meth villain as a Ron Paul supporter.
I looked him up. It was one of these physicists, one of Hitler's guys, a physicist named Werner Heisenberg. Real cute, huh?
In a basic college level marketing class, in your first year of radio, television, and film, at least for me, and then I've seen some other textbooks and curriculum and found it's also in those, but most RTF schooling teaches you that they have had subliminals for at least 70 years in the United States and Europe. And so, yes, there is subliminal messaging everywhere. It is all over the place. It's an absolute fact that they flicker it at a rate, and that they have the televisions designed for that rate to bring you into a dreamlike state. I mean, it is a fact that within minutes, you go into a dream brainwave when watching television. Go read a book by the father of modern advertising, Edward Bernays, where he calls you a dumb slave and admits they run your whole life. I've read both his major books. One of them is called Propaganda. Edward Bernays.
The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed Our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we've never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized.
Alex, I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars Nightly News. We're here at the University of Texas in Austin just days before the 10th anniversary of 9/11, and we're wondering how many people are aware that there was a third tower that fell, Building 7, which was not hit by a plane, but collapsed demolition style at 5:20 p.m., many hours after the first two towers fell. What are your thoughts when you see that? This was not hit by an airplane. It collapsed many hours after the first two towers fell.
I mean, it sort of looks like a planned demolition, but it could also be a lot of other things.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever seen that video before?
I have, actually. It was, this is weird, but it was one of those conspiracy videos I saw, but yeah, it was pretty crazy, the video I saw. It just, like, dropped straight down.
Have you ever seen the video before?
Not at that building, no. No.
Do you find it interesting that it was not featured in the 9/11 Commission report?
It wasn't featured at all? That is interesting. That is interesting. And it looked, you know, it was a very controlled blast, it seemed.
What are your thoughts when you see that building go down like that?
I don't really know what happened to it. I don't think anyone, like the government probably wouldn't tell us.
I'm actually in the College of Architecture as a grad student and have seen several demolitions, and it does look completely controlled.
I mean, it looked like a controlled demolition. It didn't look like the explosion happened from like one side, like coming in or anything like that. It looked like it kind of happened from the bottom and just kind of imploded on itself.
Is that the first time you've seen the video?
Yes, definitely.
That's the first time I've ever seen that, yeah.
This is my first time actually hearing about Building 7, so, you know, that tells you how much they've covered it, but that's very weird. It really looks like a demolition implosion.
I don't remember saying it at all. I remember watching both the second tower collapse live, and I don't remember hearing or seeing anything at the time about that.
As most of the Infowars audience is aware, World Trade Center leaseholder Larry Silverstein gave the okay to pull the building moments before Building 7 collapsed. BBC's Jane Stanley even reported Building 7's collapse minutes before the event actually happened. And you can even see Building 7 clearly behind her as she gives the report.
Yesterday I watched a video where a news lady was talking and she said the third building just fell. But behind her, the third building had not fallen yet. So that's weird.
Jane Stanley.
You saw that then, yeah.
Oh, of course, of course.
Like, she's like, oh, it fell down and it's still behind her.
You would think that she would wait till it fell, even if she had insider information that the thing was going down. She has some sort of ESP.
There are currently close to 1,500 architects and engineers who are saying that it was indeed a controlled demolition.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing where we need some sort of investigation, you know, and if the government isn't going to do that sort of investigating, then we need a third party to step in and, you know, have the authority and the resources to do that.
I mean, like a lot of people, you know, question the Warren Commission. That doesn't make all of them kooks or conspiracy theorists.
What do you feel about losing a lot of our civil liberties since 9/11?
It sucks. You know, you have, you know, people that can invade your phone calls and text messages and emails, and so you really don't have any privacy, and that really scares me.
You know, so I think that 9/11 was sort of the Trojan horse for all that sort of policy to come in.
If you notice, there's free speech zones. We can only free speech in certain areas now. So yeah, it's almost like everything that we once had is slowly shrinking.
Is it worth it to make us more safe to lose our liberties?
No, certainly not. I mean, you know, 9/11 was a terrible event, but in terms of the things that have happened since then making us more safe, I'd say that's the other side of the coin.
Do you think there needs to be a new investigation into September 11th?
I don't think it would hurt. I don't know how much we would know about it, or again, maybe how unbiased it would be, but I think it always is something that is interesting to look at further.
I think America should demand a new investigation.
Definitely be interesting to see things that I'm sure the government didn't want the public knowing at the time.
The only way to get to the bottom of it is to do more research.
I honestly believe the government's corrupt. Everyone lies. I don't think people should just put all their faith and trust in a government who is just completely selfish and only worrying about themselves.
10 years after 9/11, we could see that much of the public is aware that they're not being told everything there is to know about the tragic events of that day. The mainstream media, however, continues to avoid discussing Building 7. Instead, they insist on pushing the official fable and ridicule any American who demands a new investigation. I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars Nightly News. Back to you, Alex. I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars Nightly News. The Green Police have struck again. First, it was the Amish selling eggs, and then it was children's lemonade stands, followed by SWAT teaming people for selling tomatoes. And now, it's Gibson Guitar, one of the few iconic American companies we've got left exporting goods to the world. Now, we're about to show you a TV commercial that started airing during the Super Bowl. What appears to be lighthearted by most viewers is actually a very serious sign of dark times ahead.
Okay, so it's 3708, paper plastic.
Plastic. That's the magic word. What? Green Police. You picked the wrong day to mess with the ecosystem, plastic boy.
Battery! Let's go, take the house, come on! Put the rind down. Sir, that's a composting bird shit.
Did you install these bulbs?
Well, tragedy strikes tonight where a man has just been arrested for possession of an incandescent light bulb.
What do you guys think about plastic bottles now?
The water setting is at 105. Yeah.
You got a TDI here? Clean diesel. You're good to go, sir.
Good afternoon, officers. Are those foam cups you're drinking from? Yeah. Please step out of the car and put them on the hood.
Here in downtown Austin near 6th Street, music is played live every night of the week. Musicians are known to routinely travel far and wide to get here, but with new federal regulations, it might not be that easy. If you're trying to fly to Canada, for example, and you have a guitar that's 50 years old, they could stop you from traveling, they could take your guitar, and you can even be fined.
That sounds like a pretty typical of the trend of loosely worded and selectively enforced laws that's been happening for a while. You see them popping up more and more. That doesn't shock me.
Just another crackdown. Just when's it going to stop? You know, it's like, what else are they going to take?
They're raiding people for the wood, old wood. I mean, if this precedent goes through, where does it stop?
If it's from another country, it's been exported, then there's going to be these laws that say that if I try to leave the country with my baby, that they're going to take it from me or fine me. That's not fair, man.
You know, I'm not even a musician, but, you know, being in that community, that just makes me feel totally violated and vulnerable.
It kind of reminds me of the way, like, Monsanto tries to restrict home gardens and say they're organic farms.
By doing that, they're trying to take more of our civil liberties, and they're just basically trying to strip all our rights and show us their cards.
It doesn't seem to be a due process sort of situation in the slightest, and it seems to be much more far-reaching.
If you get on a plane and you want to travel out the country, there's a chance that if you have a guitar with you, let's say it's an older guitar, that you could be restricted, you could be fined, or they could even take your guitar from you. What do you think about that?
I say Big Brother's wreaking havoc on the free world every step of the way.
Well, it looks like due process under the law and being innocent before being proven guilty are two concepts that are apparently no longer applicable in the United States, at least as far as the federal government is concerned. I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars Nightly News. Back to you, Alex. Recently, Homeland Security announced that they will extend their Stasi-style grope-downs on innocent law-abiding American citizens who simply want to watch a football game. Now, we're here at DKR Stadium in the heart of Austin, Texas, to ask football fans how they feel about the new Homeland Security pat-downs.
Having people pat down before they come in, I don't think that would, like, the cost and benefit doesn't make sense. If they have to wait in this big crowd and big lines and then still get checked just to go in to see, like, their favorite players, it might create some personal problems.
I feel like people are always going to find a way if they want to do bad things.
If someone really wants to do something, most likely they're going to do it and they're going to find a way to sneak it through. But the more roadblocks you put up there, I guess the harder it's going to be, the more you might deter somebody from trying.
Really, I think it's kind of going overboard.
I'm not really for it. I don't think that it really will get anything accomplished.
You know, you had the guy who tased the individual, and that situation was,
it was big, and I don't want to get tased. So in a way, it's, hey, that's security. It's what needs to happen. But in another way, it's really intrusive.
Having Homeland Security at the entrance of the gates could potentially make it safer, but I also feel like it's a violation of privacy.
Last Friday, Alex Jones called for a boycott of the NFL in his attempt to prevent America from continuing down its path to becoming a nightmare police state.
Don't be part of this ritual of corruption. Boycott it, and even if you don't go to NFL games, talk about boycotting it.
This USA Today poll on September 16th clearly demonstrates that most Americans disagree with these aggressive procedures. But the federal government and Homeland Security don't care. Even though it's a clear violation of our constitutionally guaranteed Fourth Amendment rights, they're moving forward with their plans. You know, a lot of privacy advocates are in an outrage as far as, and this goes with the TSA and airports as well, about children that are being subjected to the same pat-downs. And where do you draw the line, and what's your feelings about, you know, taking your kids to a football game and they have to be patted down as well?
I can understand the reasoning for doing that, just because terrorist attacks can come through any ways and they would do anything just to get whatever accomplished. But I think that at football games, doing that to children is just it's a little bit over the line.
I don't think children need to be pat down.
It would be an arbitrary age around 13, I think would be acceptable. Underneath that age, I think you should give children their space.
Yeah, if you've got kids with you, especially, you know, you bring your son, your daughter, I don't know, it's a nice feeling that, okay, we a little bit of a hassle, slowed the line down, but I feel safe.
I would hope that, you know, reasonable minds would prevail, and they would just say, you know, an 8-year-old kid is not going to be carrying a bomb of some sort. I would hope it doesn't get that far.
If I have something where I don't feel like I should be touched, or I had a situation where I've been touched before and I didn't appreciate that one, I'm clearly not going to appreciate somebody who feels like they deserve to have to do it for security reasons. Like, that's not a good reason to be that intrusive to my body.
The unholy alliance between the NFL and the federal government is merely the next stop on the road to transforming America into one giant prison camp, a tremendous price to pay. And as you could see, most people don't feel it makes them any safer. I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars Nightly News. Alex, back to you. I'm Darren McBreen with Infowars Nightly News, and I'm here today at the Texas State Capitol, and we're about to find out if the people of Austin are aware that they are about to be hit by a wave of utility bill hikes as new EPA regulations drive up the cost of energy. What do you think about paying higher utility bills because of the EPA's new regulations against power plants?
You know, there may be some new regulations coming up against power plants at this point, but unfortunately right now I think that our citizens statewide and nationwide basically overburdened, especially with today's economic developments and situations that are going on. I think rate hikes should be at a minimal to at least try to alleviate some of the burden on our taxpayers and our citizens nationwide and statewide.
I know a lot of people that are going to be not only shocked but a little bit irritated about that as well. Absolutely. I mean, they're already, because it's such a hot summer.
Exactly.
You know, everybody's bills is already up through the roof.
You're already paying through the roof because the ACs are running nonstop, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, on top of that, and with a downturn economy, yeah, it's doesn't seem to jive that well.
Of course, I don't want to pay higher utility bills. They're already extremely high right now as it is.
Well, I don't want to pay more because of the carbon dioxide thing. That doesn't seem right, especially if it's not even proven.
Generally, I prefer regulations that deter pollution and paying a little bit more for that than an unregulated environment.
It all has to be regulated some way, right? It's going to mess our environment up.
I understand the tax on carbon footprints, but I mean, who's getting a new Lexus, you know what I mean?
Do you think that carbon dioxide is dangerous?
I think carbon dioxide can be very dangerous.
Okay, what do plants breathe?
Carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I think carbon dioxide is definitely dangerous. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any rules and laws to prevent it being.
What do plants breathe?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide is turned into oxygen by plants.
Okay.
So, I mean, it has to be in the world.
Obviously, it's not all dangerous. Carbon dioxide isn't a dangerous gas, but when there's too much of it, it's a problem.
Carbon dioxide, even though it's a natural gas, consumed by plants. It can be dangerous because, well, everyone says it has to do with global warming.
Behind me is the Holly Street Power Plant. It was partially closed in 2004 and officially shut down in 2007. Now it's simply a reminder of Austin's energy independence. What do you think about the fact that General Electric, one of Obama's biggest donors, that they get a waiver and they will not be subject to the regulations?
That sounds like politics and lobbyists at work. I mean, it's government, right? No surprise.
Sounds plausible.
Yeah, it sounds possible. There's no surprise about that.
General Electric doesn't need any favors from anybody. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Are you aware that some of these new regulations are also shutting down power plants, and this is causing some of the rolling blackouts throughout Texas?
No, I wasn't familiar with that, actually. Didn't realize that was going on.
Lobbyists make a lot of money striking these deals. There's a lot of things that we don't know, and how government, the tax breaks, the incentives, loopholes, you name it. So I think it's just one more to add to the list.
Well, as you can see, Alex, the people here in Austin, they're aware that their utility rates are going up, but they're not sure of the real cause. This is Darren McBreen with Infowars Nightly News.
We've got it. This transmission is coming to you.
Waging war on corruption.
All right, you are go.
It's Alex Jones, coming to you live from the front lines of the Infowar.
Well, I'll tell you, the InfoWars command base is hopping with little info elves. I guess that makes me the pot-bellied Santa Claus, bringing information warfare weapons to all the little children out there and all the adults as well that want to fight the New World Order. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go to Michael, Tommy, Jared, Sanchez, Matt, Jance, Julio, and others that were holding over from the last show. Then George Noory scheduled to be on next. Then David Icke, and the list just goes on. And you just saw some of the nightly news reports Darren McBreen has done. I got a bunch of reports I filed, reports Aaron filed. Occasionally we'll play 15 minutes or so of those to give you an idea what we're building, what we're doing here. If you haven't been a PrisonPlanet.tv viewer, you haven't looked at our YouTube channel, we're now reaching millions of people a week just on the free streams and stuff online. Our Bilderberg coverage got 3.5 million views on Justin TV alone a few months ago. Not counting the radio show. The radio's great. It's our regular listeners that know the truth, that are the heart and the core of our operation to reach the rest of the world. But it's the new people that all of us, listeners and myself, really want to get to. And that's where your donations at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or just go to Infowars.com. You can donate there, find the free video and audio streams. That's where the difference is really being made. And I see the donations are really starting to accelerate in. Normally the peak time is 5 to midnight for donations. And so if you haven't donated yet, now is the time. We're trying to hit $500,000. We've never hit that goal. We almost hit it last year, $437,000. And I hired 5 new people and bought all that equipment and spent well over $400,000 over there on the other end. But what that does is it guarantees us that money to be able to hire 3 or 4 more people, get the rest of the equipment we need. And my goal is next year to not have a money bomb, but the economy's falling apart so fast, I can either do that or then just add that many more advertisers. In fact, I had 3 advertisers I was supposed to plug on the show every day and most days and don't even get to them, so they just get refunded. I mean, the problem is I get so obsessed with the information, obviously. But InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, if you want to support getting the truth out to an even greater level. Who can deny we're the tip of the spear? And I want to thank all of you that have donated. We couldn't do this without you. Let's go ahead and talk to Michael in California. Thanks for holding.
Mike, Alex, you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you for calling.
Okay. Thanks for putting me on. Thanks for being up for 24 hours for us. Try to get some sleep today. I want to talk to you about smart meters in the electric companies. I was years ago, long before smart meters. If you don't have enough power usage, they'll come and tap your box without you even knowing. Are you aware of this?
Well, I know they engage in all forms of chicanery and spying on you. The systems are spy grids, but elaborate.
Well, I had gone on a vacation, and I unplugged my refrigerator. I unplugged everything in the house. When I got back, my landlord said they had basically, broke the door down to the utility box room. The power company did, and they thought for sure I was manipulating the system. They even spiked my power. I mean, I had no usage, but a little bit, but that proves that they spiked it. So when I called the power
well, there you
company,
go. They're using it for surveillance. I've seen reports they're using smart meters. If you're using too much power, then they SWAT team raid, and it's an old lady who's obsessed with fish and has, 20 fish tanks. I mean, it's all part of a surveillance society, the criminal government, along with the criminal corporations. Of course, it's California put this in. This was all Enron's plan, the same folks that gave us carbon taxes, who used to rape them for $1 billion a day during the summer, cutting off their power and then jacking up the price. It's just, we're run by crooks. And the sooner we figure that out, the better.
Well, actually, that happened in Nevada, of all places.
No, but I'm bringing up California because that's where I've seen the real horror stories, and you're calling from there.
Oh yeah, they're doing it here too. Now the other thing is TSA. I think you might like this story, Alex. I was flying home from Europe this year. Had to go through D.C. Don't ever go through that airport. What a surreal Orwellian place that is. I'm sure you've been there. I told them that they couldn't touch me. And they said, then we're have to go in the secret room. Have you had any callers or yourself been in that little weird room they put you in?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. I've said no to the TSA before. I've said no at checkpoints and filmed it and been arrested and things like that. But I had no sleep in Las Vegas. And they'd gotten me the Southwest Airlines business class. So it was like, I get to go bypass the line. And so I was late. And I come up and I say, I'm not getting the body scanner. And in a way, I wanted to document what the guy was going to do. And, he proceeded to do the groping. He didn't grab my, genitals because I was going to, really make an issue out of it. And I was saying I do this under protest, and I may still do something legally. But he said, if you prefer, we'll go in the private room. And was pointing at it. And I've reportedly, they strip search people in there. It's every pervert's dream. What happened?
Okay, what happened was I refused to go through the microwave, right? And what they do, what they did to me is all of a sudden you can't go through anything. They make you wait outside the priest or the metal detector, and then all of a sudden they call it a guy who looks like Snoop Dogg, who starts barking orders at you, telling you to take off your belt, even though my belt didn't have any metal on it. They start. It's like a traffic stop.
It's a drill sergeant. You're in an arrest situation here to break your will and train you to be a prisoner.
So finally, they get you through there. They make you sit in a chair. At least this is in D.C. anyway. They make you sit in a chair in front of everybody. So it's like you're on stage now, and now you're on the torture stage, right? You're in the town square in the stockade basically there, or the chair. And they start. You can't do this. You can't do that. They want to know what your cell phone number is, and they just start swarming you. Right, here comes the manly woman. They got the manly woman who comes out, starts barking orders at you. I told them, you're going to touch me, you better put on clean gloves, right? Well, they did that. Then I said, you know what, you're not going to touch me. I don't want you to touch me. I said, you have to go in the private room. So when you go in there, I'm like, so what? They're like, all right, well, show it. You got to take your pants off. So you know what I did? I just did it Braveheart style. I just showed them my rear end. And then showed him my junk and said, here you go. This is what you want to see. Here you go.
Well, it's funny you tell that story because I happen to know a little bird who reportedly did that too. But, the issue is that freaks them out too because that's what's coming next. But you're not supposed to be into that phase of humiliation yet. And that's what the naked body scanners are. They lie to you and say, oh, we don't record it. They've been caught lying. Oh, we're not going to grope kids anymore. They keep doing it. It's all part of their criminality. Great job, Michael. Good to hear from you. Tommy in Tennessee, you're on the air.
How you doing?
Good, brother.
First of all, like I say, the wife and I go into a forever agreement for the protection of the crew, you and your family. And also, I live over here near the Holston Defense, and our local news ain't covering it. And I was wondering if you've heard anything about it. There's a lot of military activity going on around this area.
Where are you in Tennessee?
In Bristol, near the Holston Mountain.
Well, sir, the entire military structure is on total alert. For a month, they've been building up in the Middle East and building up in Kuwait. And Israel is saying that there's about a 95% chance they're going to strike Iran. I mean, I covered it earlier. Did you hear the show earlier? I mean, I won't blame you if you didn't because it's a long show. Israel considers preemptive attack on Iran. Netanyahu goes and asks the Knesset and cabinet for permission. Okay, that's Fox Television out of Europe, Sky. Here's AP, same thing. Israel test fires missile as Iran debate rages. U.S. troops standing by in Kuwait to back up Israel. London Guardian, UK military steps up plans for Iran attack amid fresh nuclear fears. And this is in a few of our newspapers, but not big news here in the U.S. Yes, sir, they are gearing up big time.
Yes, sir. Also, I heard you last week saying that you were getting letters and stuff about the TSA is not here, with their military checking cars. That is a lie. They are here. Well, they were here. I haven't seen them in about a week.
No, sir. That's COINTELPRO, paid disinformation. They know full well that they're talking about an attack on Iran. They say I'm just making that up all over the web to make people who are ignorant think of this guy's a liar. It's all over your TV, all over your radio. They've had Army and TSA checkpoints in Tennessee and a surrounding 4-state area. I have it all on video in Police State 4, but it happened again, as you know, a few weeks ago and was national news. But they just say, Alex is a liar, it's not happening. And
you got a lot of info warriors here. There's a lot of people in the know here, so you have a lot of people listening to you daily and praying for you. But good job. Thank you.
Well, God bless you, sir, and I appreciate your call. It's great to hear from you, Tommy. I know I have a lot of people praying for me, and that really makes me humble because I know there's so many good men and women out there and so many children that write me letters that are counting on me to do a good job. And the system's just trying to overwhelm us right now. They really are. Jared in New Hampshire, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex. I had 2 points before I originally called. When I originally was going to travel to the UK to do a foreign program out there, and I went down to the consulate to report to get my visa and stuff, and I paid with my debit card, and they paid with my I paid with my debit card, and they almost didn't want to take it because it didn't have the chip in it. But I only paid with the debit card because my bank takes care of the exchange rates.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. What's your question?
Have you had anybody call in and experience that before? Because I felt a little targeted.
Your phone's a little muffled. Just real clearly, exactly what happened?
I went down to the consulate to get my visa, and I paid with my card, and I paid. Yeah, they didn't want to take my card because it didn't have the RFID chip.
Yes. What's happening is banks are announcing dozens of new harassing fees. You're treated like a criminal. Every time I go out of town, my cards are turned off, no matter where I go. And I've got to call and explain who I am, that I did get gas in this town. I can even go to Dallas, and they turn my cards off. And it's just all part of this system. They call it security, but it's total control. And more, they're refusing cash, but also most forms of credit card. And then they're just going to force us into this cashless system.
Yeah, but like I said, they want cards with only the RFID chip. Like, they didn't want to, like, I had a signature on the back of my card. It was authentic.
Well, sir, it's all part of the system. They want the cashless society, and so they can track you, understand and control how to better rape societies, track human activity, destroy underground economies that can keep us alive, shut down our societies, and also tax us and control us at every level. I appreciate your call. I know it's terrible, Jared. Sanchez in California, welcome.
Hey, Alex. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to go ahead and express how I'm just angry. I'm pissed off at what's going on with the media, how it's just not reporting on Ron Paul reporting on anything. It's just its own. They're all paid and bought for. And,
well, as you know, Sanchez, they've put out 2 scientific studies as if we need a study. We've done the math here. He gets 4 minutes to speak. Then the next person gets 8, and then 9, 10, 12, 14, 15 minutes. He gets the least amount of time to speak. He gets the least amount of attention. The attention he does get is negative by both parties and all the media. Why? Because he's real. All the rest aren't. And that's why they're doing this. And it's another illustration of a guy who knew our problems, knew history, accurately predicted it. Now it's all coming down, and the system is scared to let people know about him.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what's happening. And you know what? It makes me think, well, why don't we do something? Why don't we make the media report on this? I mean, they're giving us trash all day long. Why don't we fight back? And so I have an idea.
You know what? I have an idea, and then I want to hear yours. We should pick a date, say 2 weeks from now. Let's say 2 Thursdays from now. Guys, we pull up the date 2 Thursdays from now. Whatever that is, that'll be November, or shoot, let's make it next Thursday, or next Tuesday, whatever. We should pick a date, pull up a calendar. We should pick up a date. In fact, let's not wait too long. Let's pick up a date, and or maybe we should give it longer. I mean, I'm kind of brainstorming here. Maybe it should be early December, where everybody goes and protest the biggest media outlet within 20 miles of them, and bullhorns them and speaks out and hands out Ron Paul blackout flyers pointing out he's being blacked out in the media. What's your idea?
I like that. That's good. That's good. My idea is I'm not really that good at explaining. I'm not as eloquent as you are.
No, I'm not eloquent. I'm a hillbilly. Tell me.
Okay, so I watched this documentary. It's not like a conspiracy one, but it was really good. And if you haven't seen it, Alex, I recommend that you watch it. You can watch it on Netflix. It's really it's entertaining. It's really cool. It's called Exit Through the Gift Shop. And what it's about this street artist named Banksy. And he's probably the most famous street artist in the world because nobody knows who he is. He's kind of like the Robin Hood of this underground world of street art. And this documentary kind of covers a little bit of that. And it's just real interesting the way that it's made. But it has like a twist in the middle of it where it shows you how easy the masses of people can be manipulated or, in a sense, brainwashed to buy anything. They'll just buy whatever. There's even a guy in this documentary who calls himself, he becomes a street artist himself, and his name is Mr. Brainwash. And this is exactly what he does. He goes out and he brainwashes everybody using like propaganda and using hype to think that his art is great when it's really, in my opinion, it wasn't that great. But it's just a really interesting film. The reason why I bring this movie up is because there's another very famous street artist in this documentary, and he said something that was really, I think, is key. I think it's very important. I think we should all hear it. And this guy who said this was, his name is Shepard Fairey. And Shepard Fairey is the guy who created the Andre the Giant.
Yeah, he created the Obey stuff, the Obama iconic image, sure.
Yeah, the Obama thing. And anyway, see, he was in this documentary, and he...
the power of tagging things, I'm not going to get into it. The point is, yes, this show could launch a national tagging program that would really hurt the globalist.
I'm not necessarily saying that, Alex, but what I'm saying...
Well, no, but I've never done that. I told people hang the Obama poster in legal and lawful areas, and still they festooned them all over, stuff that was kind of uncivil, but then they were selectively enforced against, and then that made it even bigger news. So briefly, because I want to hear this, what is your idea then? People could paint their own barns, their own cars. I've seen people doing Ron Paul or Infowars.com cars. People could, what are your ideas to really grab people?
I'm trying to explain it the best I can. This guy, he said, in regards to talking about this Obey thing, this is what he's really known for. He was talking about it, and he said that when he was doing it, he just started it out as an inside joke between him and his buddies. And he was just doing it for fun, going out at night. And, yeah, he was putting this stuff illegally up on, like, walls, stickers, and stencils and stuff like this, and on billboards. Of course, he was doing it illegally, but just if you flash forward years later, like, this guy's made an industry of it. Now Obey is like a clothing line. people all over the world are wearing Obey T-shirts. I have a bunch of them. And one thing he said is
I know, and he claimed he was a guy that was anti-commercialism. And so you're talking about creating some type of Ron Paul movement like that. Certainly Ron Paul movement is 100 times bigger than Shepard Fairey. He's more of a leftist, but I do understand taking kind of that model and doing that. That's what we did with the Obama poster. I want to show people right here, and I appreciate your call. Was that the basic idea, Sanchez?
Yeah, that was the basic idea. I was thinking, since he did something like that, if we all had just at least one image that we could all at the same time, because that's just one guy that did that. And imagine if just half of your listeners, or even like a quarter of your listeners, were to do that. Then I mean,
yeah, we could have an image of Obama as a ghoul and put under him murder prize winner or murderer. And then when people say, "Why are you calling him a murderer?" we say, "Well, he's the Peace Prize winner. He's for torture and all these wars." And you know what? I think you're right. I think we'll come up.
Or Ron Paul, Alex. What about Ron Paul? What do we do with image of Ron Paul? Some kind of universal one that you guys can make the art for, and then it could say, not a puppet, or it could say our last chance, and just everybody, all the info warriors at the same time, puts it out everywhere, because there's so many people that don't even know who this guy is, Ron Paul.
No, I agree. That's a good idea. Not a puppet. They fear him. You know what? I will launch next week. I'll get my graphics folks to put it together. We'll launch an iconic image of Ron Paul, his face, with a simple slogan on it. It's a genius idea. God bless you. By the way, speaking of getting the word out, $5.95 for a 25-pack of my bumper stickers at cost. The Infowars.com sticker. The In the Fed, Arrest the Bankers, Infowars.com sticker. The fluoride, there's poison in the tap water sticker. This has made the news around, that one. 9/11 was an inside job. Right there. Right there. These stickers, 25 of them for $5.95. That is at our cost. Infowars.com. We buy these 20,000 at a pop. Okay, Sanchez made some great points. I want to get to Matt, Lance, Julio, Tina, Zach. I can't tell who was holding when the last hour ended and who's new here. I got George Noory coming up here in a few minutes, but I will continue with your calls. I'm going to go ahead and go to a couple more short little pieces, whatever ones we haven't played, Jaron, be my guest. We're going to play the Facebook one, and we can also play the Denver Airport and the Hop Dotties one about the fluoride stuff if you want. So, yeah, play whatever you want while we're getting George Noory on the line. And then we'll talk to George for 30 minutes, then we'll go back to your calls, and then David Icke's coming up and a bunch more. We're broadcasting, if you just tuned in and we're watching, for 27 hours straight. And we are now into almost the end of hour number 5. And I'm going to go until a little bit past 5 o'clock. And then my first real break, Mike Adams is going to be in here for a couple hours. And then he's got a bunch of guests lined up and information, your calls and news, a bunch of breaking stuff about evil raw milk criminals that need to be arrested for drinking it now. So that's coming up. And we'll get into all the other people. Alfred Adask, Texe Mars, Mr. Corbett of the Corbett Report, Springmeier's coming on, Aaron Dykes, Paul Watson, Richard Reeves, Gerald Celente, Jim Mars, Chapman. It's all coming up. And we will continue here. Why are we doing this? Well, it's fun to do a 24-hour-plus broadcast sometimes, but it's also fun and informative to have a money bomb. The idea of people that are against the globalists giving money to an organization, to a media outlet to build a bigger structure, more equipment, more crew, to up the level. Look at how we've grown in 4 years. Who can deny it? We're routinely linked on Drudge Report. They have all these national TV hit pieces on it. Infowars and Prison Planet have more than tripled their audiences. The films are viral. Everything we do is just bam, 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 breaking through. And it's all because of you supporting us and spreading the word and my hard work and the crew's hard work and dedication. So Infowars, MoneyBomb.com. I know it's well over $100,000. But I'll tell you, we usually launch these a month before, get the website up. We did this 15 days before. I didn't promote it like I normally do. The economy is in a tailspin. We've normally raised $100,000 by the time that we even kick the money bomb off in the month before. I like to get started. We've now raised it to that point. We need to get to the 500,000, or at least a respectable 400 and something. We've supported Ron Paul. We've supported all these other groups. Ron Paul said 4 years ago that half his initial money when he first ran for president came from audience of this show telling him so, and that was the numbers and things they had from their feedback, asking folks how they found the Paul campaign, why they donated. This is such an important platform, not just for myself and the callers, but for the guest. And that's why it's so important. So donate today at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or buy books, videos, bumper stickers to support us. A lot of these deals now, actually, we don't make any money, so but it does get the website out and educate people, and that's what I really care about at the end of the day. So InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. We also have the eBay area. When Mike Adams fills in for a couple hours, I'm going to go back there and paint and do some work and do some original stuff for the eBay deal, some paintings and some pen and inks for folks that donate as well. Those will be auctioned off at eBay. We got the bullhorn being auctioned up there and the sledgehammer and a lot more. It's all at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. The free video streams, the audio streams, all of it, the donation buttons, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or if that site gets sluggish as it does sometimes, simply go to Infowars.com. You can find it all duplicated right there. We'll be back after a couple more clips of the nightly news made possible by your support. Here it is.
Recently, as a reporter for Infowars, I tried to log back into Facebook and it wouldn't let me. It wanted me to identify myself not with my passcode, but by showing me obscure pictures of my friends and family. I had the feeling that it had something to do with testing their face recognition technology. And then I saw this article in the Wall Street Journal. We know governments are quietly using face scanning cameras on street corners and in airports, and they have license plate scanners. But how are they going to get the public to openly accept a surveillance society? Well, Facebook recently teamed up with CBS to promote their new fall drama, Person of Interest, to condition people to opt in to their face recognition program. They know who these people are and what their names are, and they want you to confirm it for them. Sure, the security measure confirms who I am, but it also confirms for them who my friends and family are. So I went out to the street to find out what people had to say about all this. I tried to log on from a different computer that I never used before, and Facebook prompted me to say, look, we want you to go through a series of face recognition.
The questions and like showing you the pictures of your friends and stuff.
And they want you to identify all those pictures of your friends.
I guess it's just a privacy and like more of a protective measure because I know people's accounts get hacked a lot. So maybe they're trying to actually help us out by giving us a little quiz.
I think I know what you're talking about where they show you pictures and it's like, oh, is this person? And you're supposed to confirm it. I think that's really weird. I know it's used as a tool just to make it easier to tag people, but I've never heard of it being used to get you to like get back into your page.
You feel comfortable with the fact that Facebook is data mining all your personal and private information, including, your friends and family's activities?
I mean, I can't say that that's comfortable, but I think anything that you put up on the internet is up for public scrutiny.
I'm not comfortable with that at all. Although I know they're doing it, and I wonder exactly what they're doing with all the information.
The government agencies realize that it's a good way to, pick up on things that they don't like, or especially illicit activities.
You should, keep your settings on private, and you should be careful with what you post on there.
It's easier to monitor people on Facebook than it is to tap people's phones, I think, to a certain degree.
Anything you put up on the public sphere, I think, is essentially public information.
Just with the internet in general, we are getting more used to like our business being out there and just getting used to, I guess, our privacy diminishing a little bit.
I'm just not going to be very informative on Facebook anymore. No. Untag myself from every post that I've ever been in.
Some people are concerned that Facebook, it might be used to acclimate the public into accepting surveillance society.
Absolutely. I definitely think that while it might not be intentionally so, it could be intentionally so, but it's definitely serving as that.
I think it is getting us acclimated to a surveillance world.
That sounds a bit 1984 and creepy.
People are getting really used to sharing all kinds of information, putting everything about their entire life online.
We're putting a lot of information in a public sphere, and that information is accessible to anyone.
I think it's definitely acclimating people.
Who knows if that could be used for good to hold us to a higher standard or for something else. It's really about what we do with it.
I personally love Facebook, and it's just a way for me to keep in contact with my friends who live all over the world. And for anyone to use that for like keeping track of people, I think that's just really creepy, actually. I don't feel comfortable with that.
It's incredible. Internet kill switches, cybersecurity, the takeover of the web, warrantless wiretapping, This is America 10 years after 9/11, and it has nothing to do with keeping us safe. Zuckerman, the owner of Facebook, insultingly called his own users dumb Fs. But worst of all, once you've posted your photos and your personal data on Facebook, they say they own it forever. You can make your account private, but it's always there. They're using it. Social networks like Twitter, Facebook, and all of it, they have deep government ties. Google was set up with funding from In-Q-Tel, a company whose main client is the CIA. As Wayne Madsen reports, the CIA has always used the popular media of the day to push their propaganda. And today we see Facebook expanding their face recognition capabilities. I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars Nightly News. Alex, back to you.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Well, it's 4 o'clock, 4:01 now, Central Standard Time, 5 o'clock Eastern. And George Noory, one of the hardest working guys in the media, and of course one of the most listened to and watched, is our guest. He's a multi-time Emmy Award winner for his news TV coverage. He's a longtime radio talk show host. He's a best-selling author, and he has the second largest radio show and audience, period. 16+ million people. That's just on AM and FM, and there's XM, internet. It's just amazing. And he really, more than anybody out there, if you had to put it all together, helped bring my message of information to the general public in the last 8 years, having me on as a guest at Coast to Coast AM, coasttocoastam.com. And by the way, he invited me on this next Monday. It was funny. I mean, I invited him to pop on here and kind of begged him because I know he's a busy guy and needs to get some sleep. And then I kind of said, hey, I like to do the full interviews. I like popping in during the news. He said, all right, Alex, you're on next Monday. But then they told me what they wanted to talk about. It's always, just simple areas. I can talk about whatever I want, but it's general topics. He said, I want to talk about Alex Jones and then the state of the world. So I guess we're talking some about little old me, but I guess it is kind of the transformation and awakening. But I got to tell you, George, so much of what you've been talking about for decades and I've been talking about for close to that, it's not that it's even becoming passé, but now it's like it's worse than we thought. Government wants Google to shut down videos that are critical. Street lights that listen to you. Oh, there are cancer viruses in the vaccine. I mean, it's like if we're almost becoming passé at a certain point or mainstream, then how much worse is it that we don't know, George?
Alex, it's Orwell. It's 1984, except he was off by 20 years.
Yeah.
And, here we are right in the middle of this. When you hear stories that Homeland Security wants to monitor the social networks just to see if there's any potential of civil unrest, these are scary times that we're in right now. Technology is one of the main reasons these things have happened to us. What you've been able to do and what we've done on Coast to Coast, and by the way, we're popping champagne because we've now hit 559 commercial radio station affiliates, which is just about unheard of. And you are right, we are number 2 in the world in terms of affiliate count, and we're slowly creeping up, and one day we'll be number 1. But what's happening, I think the public has become aware, not only because of technology and social networks that move information faster and faster and faster, but they are also smart enough to realize that, you know what, we love our country, but you can't accept everything that government hands to us. You've got to question it. And if people had done this back in World War II, example, Pearl Harbor, Vietnam, the Gulf of Tonkin, and all these other different areas, they might have been able to stand up and say, look, enough is enough. What is going on here? And we find ourselves right now in the middle of all this with this vast amount of information out there at our disposal, and people are becoming more aware of it. And that's what you're feeling, that's what I'm feeling, and that's what so many other people are feeling.
Well, George, in fact, that was my next question for you. You see the awakening. You are a world-renowned analyst, media personality, researcher, probably one of the best interviewers out there, bar none, probably even better than Larry King in his heyday. You have your finger on the pulse, so I know you're picking up what I'm picking up. I am a person who is well-known, especially because of the internet, and so anywhere I go, people stop me, and it's not every 10 or 15 people now, it's every 3 or 4 or 5, no matter where I go. But they're always saying, nobody's waking up, we're in deep trouble, oh my God, it's all true, I really appreciate you. And so they don't understand that actually we are becoming the majority and more people are awake than they know because they're not George Noory, they're not Alex Jones. There's only a handful of media personalities in the real media, in the reality, truth-based, seeking media who are recognized. And so we get the feedback and see the awakening. But then people individually out there, they're awake, but they feel like they're alone. I think that's why Coast to Coast is so important, because people can actually hear, and you have polls, and people know then that they're not in the minority. They're not crazy. They're not kooks. Can you speak to that phenomenon from your incredible reach, communicating and doing conferences all over the country?
Well, first of all, I learned at a very early age, and I'm talking 19 years old when I first started working in broadcasting. I think I was on the other end of Marconi when he said, "Can anyone hear me?" I think it was me who said, "Yeah, I can, Mr. Marconi." But I learned, Alex, at a very young age that the success of a broadcaster was very simple. There was a simple formula here, and that was get rid of your ego. It's not about you. It's about the story, and it's about your listener, or it's about your viewer. And one of the simple techniques that I do on a very regular basis, because people say to me, "My God, you're so in touch with stuff," or "You're so ahead of things. How do you do it?" It's a simple formula. I go out regularly in the public, whether, as you just said, it's a speaking engagement, or whether it's a restaurant, or a shopping center, or you name it. I go out there and I talk to people. I listen to what they have to say. And so if 3 years ago somebody says, "You know what, my company's going to lay me off. They're having trouble making sales. This has never happened before." And then you hear it from another person and another person and another person. Well, then you begin to realize there's a pattern here, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. And so we were miles ahead of the mainstream media when we started talking about the economic mess or the mortgage mess. People were saying to me, "I'm having trouble making my mortgage payments. I just can't do it anymore." Way before anybody even knew about the derivative problems and things like that.
Oh, I heard you 8 years ago talking about, you weren't calling it robo-signing. You had a guest on. That's actually, because I learn a lot from you, not vice versa, but I mean, years ago, you had guests on about the mortgage fraud and taking houses they didn't have the paper on, and that's only come out in the last year or two.
Yeah, exactly, and nobody believed us. Nobody believed us. I mean, just recently, the mainstream media now is beginning to pick up the things that you and I do, and they're beginning to realize that, you know what, this might be a major story. There's something going on here. When we talked about, look, the SARS virus is not going to be a pandemic. The H1N1 virus is not going to wipe out society. It's a push to sell vaccines. Folks, back off. And they had like 200 cases worldwide, and I'm going, this is ludicrous. We get 36,000 deaths a year just in the United States from the so-called seasonal flu, and that's what they think we have. And I'm saying, if there's any pandemic, it's the seasonal regular flu. It's not all this other bunk that they're throwing at us. And so what we've done on Coast to Coast, whether the stories are paranormal, like my book that just came out, Talking to the Dead, or UFOs or Bigfoot, we're also into alternative medicine, we're into cutting-edge science, and we're into mainstream news stories with what I call the coast-to-coast twist. Last night, I had Jerry Corsi on for an hour talking about the rumblings that Israel is looking for some internal support to go after Iran, and that's another issue. I'm not going to talk about the justification of Iran. I think they harbor terrorism, and something needs to be done. And most Iranians, by the way, who live in that country, want a pro-Western type of life. They love America, and a lot of people don't understand that. But it's these mullahs who are taking over that are doing all these horrendous things. But we are picking up stories like that, and I had Corsi on last night talking about how we are on the verge of a military intervention against Iran. And then we talked about the ramifications of that. You know, Israel has nukes, we have nukes, Iran has missiles, not nukes yet, but maybe they do. Who knows? Those stories will start popping up, Alex, I guarantee you, within the next week or two on the mainstream media. Matt Drudge, whom I think the world of, is also on the cutting edge of all this. He's in our club. He's the one who's also up there sticking his neck in the noose, getting these stories out to the public. And, you know, I just think that people like you and Drudge and the things that we do on Coast to Coast are so critical to allow people who are listening to make a decision, to stand up, to put their foot down and say, you know what, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Well, I agree with you, George, and there really is a club. I would say George Noory, Matt Drudge, Alex Jones. I mean, who else is there on a huge scale? I guess some of the other coast-to-coast hosts, Ian Punnett and others. Who else is out there actually even raising real issues? You know, people sometimes call me and they say, well, you know, they get into some wild stuff on Coast to Coast AM, but I can't quit listening to it. And I'm like, regardless, it's healthy to talk and explore everything. And 10 years ago, I didn't have this view. Now, as I've learned a little, because it gets you to think about other things and have an open mind. It's the closed minds that are the big problem that we face as a society. And then I realize things I talk about, even though I know they're documented and true, other people just aren't ready to be able to face it and deal with it. And so I want to bring you to, I mean, I want to get into the whole New World Order and the Vatican calling for world government and global regulations, you have global currency, which means global tax. So don't let me forget to get to that with you, George. But let's get into UFOs now, because no one can deny that back when Art Bell was pioneering really deep discussion of this type of stuff, and we're on a planet, we know there's all sorts of weird stuff going on. It's in the Bible. It's in the Sumerian text. They got helicopters carved on the side of the pyramids, you know, down the tombs. We know there's a lot of stuff we don't know that's, you know, going on. I mean, we know we have knowledge of a very limited spectrum. But now with government coming out more and more, now with, speaking of the Vatican, saying get ready for something and, you know, contact, from you're in the middle of it like nobody else, you're focusing on this every day, do you think they're getting ready to disclose something or to stage something to try to unify the planet, as some government documents and world leaders have talked about? I mean, if you had to crystallize it, what's going on with the off-world or on-world life forms?
A couple of years ago, I was at a conference in Washington, D.C. that Steve Bassett had put on. It's Exopolitics on UFOs, and Steve has been a guest when I was doing my little local St. Louis show back in 1997. He's been a regular guest on Coast to Coast. He believes that government will eventually disclose. Well, he and I are at odds on that. I've told him, at no uncertain terms, will government come forward and tell us that we are being visited by extraterrestrials. They just won't do it. They fear collapse, loss of control, and everything else. Be that as it may, whistleblowers, those within government, continue to come forward to say things like Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell, claiming that, yes, we're being visited, they do exist, and this is what's happening. So that is going on, and that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, you talk about a false flag. Project Bluebeam is supposed to be a government program where they will one day send holographic images of UFOs over major cities in the United States, much like the movie Independence Day, where we would see these craft one day and panic and say, please, government, save us, please, help us, do whatever you have to do. Then there comes martial law and more control and everything else. There's that possibility that a plan like that is there somewhere on the table, ready to be implemented. In the next year or two, probably not, but I think it's out there. But to answer that question about disclosure, it ain't going to happen. I think we're being visited. This is a vast universe. I think one is foolish to think that we are alone in the universe. As Walter Sullivan from the New York Times once wrote many, many years ago, we are not alone, and we're not. There are other inhabitants out there. They've learned different kinds of propulsion. They're not coming here the way we, zoom around in space. And they've learned how to bend space-time, and they've come here. And why not? This is a gorgeous planet. This is so teeming with life. My gosh, you go outside and you look at everything that's out there that's alive. This is a utopia. And I think other inhabitants are coming here going, this place is unbelievable. What a great place to visit.
Well, every culture out there says that's happening. I've never really gotten into those areas just because I can't get people to admit there's FEMA camps when it's in the Houston Chronicle.
Exactly.
But undoubtedly, this is a wide universe, and a lot of stuff is going on, and life was probably seeded on this planet because, you don't find a fine Swiss wristwatch out in the middle of the desert that, got put together by the sands bumping up against each other. George, let's talk about a issue I've never raised with you, and then I want to get your perspective on. I know a lot of NASA people that I've seen in the films of NASA on the front control system, on NASA 1, not even in the backup. I know the fellow who ran the RCA cameras on the moon. He said, no, we were on the moon, and he even showed me his national security letters. I've known him about 15 years, Raymond Teague. And he told me some stuff privately, said he'd say it on air. Once he got on air, because he thought he had a lot of heart trouble at the time, and he's still alive, but he thought he was going to die soon, so he told me some on air. But then I've talked to other people in NASA, and they say basically there is some manipulation going on, but it's to cover up the real technologies that the U.S. government has. Look how advanced the Germans were at the end of World War II. They still say the SR-71 Blackbird's the fastest plane we've got. We see the stealth helicopter crash. But he wouldn't go all the way, but he basically said, we've been to the moon and more, and some of the stuff you saw that looked like fakery, that is just basically stuff for public consumption, but that the space program is way more advanced. Then I talked to Dr. Bob Bowman, the former head of Star Wars program, and he said, well, it's classified, but yes, we had drones in space with DU Sabo political decapitation systems, to kill major government's leaders in an hour in the 70s. Star Wars didn't really start in the 80s. So there's my preface there. What is your view on the space program? They're claiming it's basically over now. What's going on here?
I will paraphrase a coast-to-coast guest and our science advisor, Richard C. Hoagland, who heads up his own website called EnterpriseMission.com, of which he believes that there is another project up there in space that we don't know anything about, that is a black ops program, and that they've been up there for a long, long time. Maybe they've still gone to the moon, who knows, but that they have conducted and have continued to conduct various experiments, surveillance techniques, you name it, up there in space. There is no doubt in my mind, Alex, that with the kind of technology we possess in the United States, that we have utilized space for incredible things, and we don't, as the American public, understand or know about. Is that smart? Well, let's say if I were president of this country and I needed to protect everybody here, I would probably approve some kind of black ops program as well. The danger with all of that, however, is what happens when you get someone else who's not as caring, not as thoughtful about people, but happens to be more concerned about control and manipulation and staying in office for the rest of his life? That's the problem with everything that's going on right now. I have no problems, personally, going through airport security and having them check me out and having them say, you know what, you're clean as a whistle. I feel safe on a plane when they do that. But what happens one day when that government decides, look, we're going to kick it up a notch or two. We're going to do this for control. We're going to go by their houses, and we're going to take infrared scopes of everybody inside, and they won't even know we're outside, and we can see what they're doing in their house. We can watch what they're watching on TV, and we will control everything. We know where they put their guns, so we know where to go at any given time. That's already the danger.
That is the danger. That's already happening. They've now, I knew about that 15 years ago. Now MIT's announcing it, but you just hit the heart of it. from the people I've talked to, and they admit that over 90% of the space program is classified military, that they early on sold it on, we've got to dominate space, we've got volunteers that are ready to die, but we can't have all these people dying in the space program in front of all the little old ladies. We'll have the public space program to fund everything, but then we'll have the real space program going on. And that's basically what I've been told by some pretty high-level people. And then Buzz Aldrin came on and said, yeah, the pyramids, yeah, something designed them. Yeah, there's an obelisk on the moon of Mars. And then I heard there was a fracas over that. Well, I was at Charlie Sheen's house. This is a true story. Buzz Aldrin can be asked this, because I've asked him back on, for whatever reason, even though his secretary said, oh, we love you, we like you, he's ready to come back on. Yeah, we like what you're doing. And then later he wouldn't come back on. It's been about 2 years, and I'm telling my producers, go after Buzz Aldrin. But I'm publicly bringing this out. On that interview, just type in Buzz Aldrin talks about monolith on the moon, and it'll come up. He said some really wild stuff. Never heard him say anywhere else. I'm at Charlie Sheen's house. This is like a year ago, right before the whole meltdown and all this.
Yeah.
And he goes, hold on, Buzz Aldrin's calling. We're going out to dinner in a couple nights. Too bad you're not going to be here. And he answers it. It's on record on TMZ, caught Buzz Aldrin and him at dinner a couple days after I left. Point is, Buzz Aldrin, and he goes, hold on, I'm going to put you on speaker. Got my friend here. Puts him on speaker, iPhone, sitting here outside overlooking the Hollywood Hills, Charlie Sheen's backyard in Beverly Hills. And it's Buzz Aldrin going, yeah, great. Well, sure, I heard you want to go out to eat with me. All right, because Charlie likes to go out with interesting people, to dinner. He goes, all right, yeah, sure. How about in a couple days? Let me check with, this and that. And he goes, but let me tell you something. So they talk for about 15 minutes, and he knows we're on speaker. And he says, let me tell you, in 2 months, they're going to announce water was found on the moon. And I've known this for a long time, but now I can tell you, Charlie, we'll talk about it at dinner. Yeah, they're going to claim the Indians found it. Yeah, they're going to do all this. And I'm sitting there hearing this, and I even told my wife about it, and Charlie could tell the story. And then Buzz, hung up. And then it wasn't 2 months. It was about 4 months later they announced, water found on the moon, Indians find it. So, I mean, right there, I got a window into something crazy. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be interviewing George Noory, but, I'm asking you, what do you make of that?
Well, first of all, Buzz is a great American and one very different kind of guy. And, he took a swing at a guy who wanted him to pledge on the Bible that we never went to the moon when these guys all risked their lives to do whatever they had to do. So he's a different guy. I was on the Larry King show, Alex, with Buzz a couple of years ago, and we were going to talk about UFOs and everything else, and I'm on with a group of other people. And Larry turns to Buzz, and he says, now tell us, what did you see? And then the story had to do with, did the Apollo 11 astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, did they see a UFO trailing them as they were going to the moon? And, Buzz just completely ignored the question and started talking about the capsule and how things work and separate and stuff. And I'm looking at Larry going, Larry, push him, get the answer, let's do it. And Buzz just never would go there. But, he's a different kind of guy, and I think the NASA guys are all different. And I keep citing Edgar Mitchell, whom I know well, and I've been to events with him, and I've sat down to dinner with him. And he tells me, he says, George, I'm going to tell you something. I haven't seen anything weird on the moon, but I'm told by people within government that we're being visited. Strange things are going on. And he said, I believe these people. And I told him, and I believe you, Edgar. And that's the way it is. Ingo Swann, who was the father of remote viewing, who was set up by the U.S. government, the military, to set up a remote viewing program so we could spy on the Soviets at the time. He remote viewed the backside of the moon, and he contends that there are structures on the moon, that there are things there, and, if this universe is indeed 14 billion years old, and our solar system is 4.5 billion years old, there's a high likelihood that that moon has been used as a stomping off ground, as a base. But the other thing that a lot of people don't understand, Alex, and that, that's why we turn to people like Michael Cremo, forbidden archaeologist. This is an old planet. And our civilization, our humankind that we know of is merely a couple thousand years old.
Yeah, it's been around like less than a second in the scheme of time.
Exactly. I think we have had high technology civilizations that built the pyramids, that even go back beyond that probably had flying machines in India. They talk about the Brahmanas.
Oh, no, it's all, but I mean, that's what's incredible about Buzz, and if you ever get him on, ask him about this. Hey, you were in a conversation with Charlie Sheen, Alex Jones, and again, I was just sitting there drinking coffee listening to this, but again, Buzz was saying, oh, we've always known, but we kept it secret, but now I can talk about it. It's going to come out in a few months. That was nowhere on the news. And so my point is, there was a window into Buzz Aldrin when he wasn't being guarded, admitting that they knew there was water, and then that was a big breaking national story, and I almost went on air. I told my wife, should I tell that story? And she goes, that'll sound crazy. But the thing is that the NASA knew that. Why did they let India announce it? Why did they keep it secret for 40 years?
You know what? I think they have a timetable to release information. If they go out right away and say there is water on the moon, or there are structures on Mars, people may say, well, what are we spending money to go see if there's water on the moon? And, I think that's another reason. There's an economic reason for holding back information so they can continue their budgets and their projects and keep things going. And, because to me it's a no-brainer. There's water on the moon. That's a great story. Tell us. This is not the grand deception. But I just think that they think that if we know too much, we're going to say, okay, on to the next project. No need to send this probe to the moon to look for water when you already have told us it's there. Next.
Well, here's my question, George. What else is going on? Because I've seen that on mainstream news where they play the tapes of the astronauts saying our capsule's being followed and all this stuff. And I've seen the NASA footage of, like, beams shooting into space and things flying around. I mean, the point is, what else don't we know then if they won't even tell us basic stuff? I mean, here's the thing about Aldrin. He's on the show. I'm not even bringing this stuff up. And he goes, we can find the clip, actually. He's like, yeah, who do you think built the pyramids? That stuff's all over. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Obelisk. That's where we need to land, Alex, on that moon. And I'm like, Buzz, what? I mean, it's not even a UFO show. And maybe he brought it up because I didn't bring UFOs up. I don't know.
This is one of the things that fuels Coast to Coast, Alex. It fuels your program, too. We deal with the mysteries of the universe. People have an opportunity to sit back and think. I have physicists on all the time, and I always ask them, tell me about the Big Bang. How did some little minuscule particle blow up and we have all this mass? How did this happen? And you know what? I've still not been given a good answer. There are more mysteries out there than I think we'll ever uncover.
Well, George, scientists all the time, 500 years ago or 600, they thought the Earth was still flat. That was absolute fact. I'm not saying that our quantum mechanics experts, physicists of 100 years ago weren't smart, like Max Planck and, of course, Einstein, but he said you couldn't have a faster-than-light particle, and they've now repeatedly proven that they've got faster-than-light particles. I mean, the truth is we don't know 1/1,000,000th of what's going on. Alex,
I'm convinced that when you're on Coast to Coast, even you are faster than light when you're on the show.
Oh, man, the show does go fast. I've had you almost 30 minutes, and I know you said you'd say 30, 45. I know you're a very busy man, and I know you've got a 4-hour show coming up tonight. And I've got a lot of callers, but they were from earlier, so I'll get to them after you go. Can you stay 10 more minutes with us, George?
Sure, love to.
I've been asking a lot of the questions here, George. How about Alex Jones actually shuts up? This will be like an eclipse, a very rare event. What is on George Noory's mind? What are you most passionate about right now in your research? What's coming up tonight?
Well, tonight, on the program we're talking about the search for Atlantis, and again, classic coast to coast type shows. But what I have a passion for, Alex, is just trying to find the truth. Whatever it is, wherever it might take us, good or bad, I want us to know the truth. And I want this planet to understand that our role here is to make human beings a little more comfortable and to stop the oppression. Look, I'm all for a great military. I spent 9 years in the Navy. I think we should have and continue to have the strongest defense that this planet can muster. We should have all the technology that is available to us. But our role should be to go into countries where people are being suppressed and get rid of those low-life dictators dictators and make these planets better for people. And that's what our role should be. We shouldn't be occupying, taking over. We shouldn't be an aggressor. We should merely be taking care of people who are oppressed. And who could argue with that? If you hear that 200,000 people have been murdered by some butcher, it's our job to go in and take that guy out. Nobody's going to argue with you about that. That's what this planet is supposed to be doing for each other, providing food and security and comfort. You know, if you believe in life after death and a hereafter, and if you're very spiritual, then you know what we're here for. And that's our role on the planet. And that's what I want to do with this program. I want people, when they listen to Coast, to be entertained, to be informed, to cry, to laugh. I want that passion, and it appears to be working for us. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We've got what we call the Coast Insiders Club now, Alex, where we charge folks less than 25 cents a day to be a member of it, where they can get downloads and podcasting from past programs, but more importantly, they become part of a family. And, you know, I'm thrilled to death that we've been able to do things like that at, you know, pennies on the dollar to help people. And that's what we're going to continue to do. I have no plans to retire. I mean, I'm approaching next year, my 10th year doing Coast to Coast. And, you know, I'm going to keep doing it until one day we go to a commercial break and my producer, Tom Danheiser, comes on the air and says, George just passed away. That's the way I want to go out.
Oh, man, that's an amazing way to put it. Well, that's what passion is all about, and so you'll probably live to be about 100 if that's your view of the world.
I'm already 100.
Look, oh, yeah, you got a long way to go to 100, so do I.
We'll get there.
George, out of all the shows you've done, what are some of your favorites?
Oh, you know what? I love them all. I can't pick one because I enjoy every one. They're all different for me. And I learn all the time. Alex, I got to tell you, when I first started doing Coast to Coast, people were talking about, you know, a one-world government or talking about you. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. I studied it myself. This program has been a learning curve for me, too. And so the audience comes along with me for one heck of a ride, and we're going to learn something tonight, whether we talk to a physicist or a psychic or a paranormal investigator. You name it, we'll do it. You know, I had a great time Monday night on our Ghost to Ghost Halloween show. And it was fun to hear these kinds of stories from people, but at the same time, the next day or two, I'm talking about the possibility of war with Iran. That's important to me, too.
Well, George, put it to you this way, because that's a great answer, but what is your favorite topic? I mean, does it change day to day, but what area of the investigation of reality, the search for truth, the search for the mysteries, what area, you know, is the most exhilarating, the most exciting for you?
You know what? I cannot be specific, Alex, and that's the God's truth. I love them all. I mean, I love alternative medicine. I love making sure that people can heal themselves with natural things. I like the fact that you have Bigfoot investigators that go out. They're trying to find Bigfoot. So, you know, every show that we do, I find fascinating. So if you were to say to me, as you've just done, what's your favorite topic? They all are. My favorite topic is doing Coast to Coast. It purely, simply, that's what it is.
Well, I've got to say this. I mean, few people, I'm so honored get to actually interview George Noory. I know George doesn't do a ton of interviews. He does speaking engagements. But we're talking to somebody who really actually talks to tens of millions of people a day, soon to be the biggest radio show in the world, to eclipse Rush Limbaugh. And I think if you have the internet in and everything else, you're probably bigger. But as you were saying, you were within a, you know, just a hair's breadth. You have 559 stations. In many areas, you have more than half the total radio listening audience. I mean, in this universe of fractured media and a million different choices, George Noory has just done incredible things, and his AM radio has gone through changes and decline in audience. You've only increased. And Art Bell's a master of radio. I mean, even when I agreed with him or disagreed with him, the voice, the way he really was in the room with you, nobody can top that. But to see you take the show and top it in other ways and to take it even further. I mean, it's no brag, it's no fact, it's no butt kissing here, George. I just marvel at your professionalism and how you just deliver insightful questions, how you draw out things, and how you've taken that show that, I mean, people were marveling, nobody could top, and I've got to say, you've taken it 2 or 3 or 4 different levels. I mean, back 8 years ago, when you started interviewing myself and others, you've been doing it 10 years now, but 8 years, 9 years ago when you fully took it over, George, and I always talk about this because it's so true, no one on a forum like that you could call mainstream was covering alternative things that were in the back alleys of the internet, and that's what I want to close this out with, and any other points you want to raise. Why did you decide, not just with Alex Jones, because you've told that story, but with other people, to take the risk? You know, here you are, you got one of the most powerful platforms in the world, and to go in a direction and model States Health Emergency Powers Act. I was only reaching 300, 400, 500,000 people a day then, not 2, 3 million. I mean, I couldn't say I beat that. Everybody I talked to in 2002, 2003, with a public government plan to prepare for forced inoculations, you were the show that overturned that. You had to have heat on you for that. I mean, so many things that you literally trailblazed on with a platform that big. A, why did you do it? B, how did you, I mean, I know that they don't tell you what to say or do, but I guess, I mean, this is an international platform. How did you cover such topics when no one else had been able to do it before?
I realized, Alex, that it was the right thing to do. I had to get to a point where I said, this is more important than money. It's more important than my career. And I'm going to do what I think is the right thing to do. And God help me, if it doesn't work for me, then I'm toast here. But if it does work, it gets bigger and stronger, and that's what we're going to do. And I did it. And I don't know if I was lucky or fortunate or divine providence stepped in, but it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and people now realize that, you know, they have to have this coast-to-coast fix because every day it affects people in some form or fashion, whether it's a truck driver who's carrying cargo to keep this country going, or a security guard, or a great cop, and there are a lot of good ones out there in spite of what we see sometimes in the media. There are a lot of great people out there that are looking for some answers for their own specific lives, and that's what I want to do, and that's my mission.
Well, that's beautiful. So I've heard you speak of this, but in other subjects. Basically, George Noory goes with his gut. Your gut said, go out on the limb, and that's the success story that you put it all on the line. Here you are, after decades, winning the highest awards in TV, radio. You've got the big national show, and you take it in a new direction, you know, basically a 90-degree turn. You still covered a lot of the same issues, but added all this in and really took on serious, pertinent political issues. That's why, I mean, I've got to give you kudos. And folks know I don't just hand out kudos. I mean, if I say it, I mean it. I mean, George, you have put a mark on the world. I cannot tell you how many people I hear talk about Coast to Coast AM and the topics you cover, and George Noory, how many people who have made connections and woken up through what you're doing. I mean, it is, for me, you know, I've learned the New World Order, the root of all evil is not the love of money. That's how they sell out ignorant people, is for the love of money. The true Illuminati, dark ones, they are into the souls and minds and psyches, and they believe in the psychic power, from my research, of sucking energy and lying and shuttering minds. But as your book, and as your name means, Worker in the Light, one of your last books, the power of unlocking minds, that's my gold. That's my treasure. That's what I seek. And I think we are on the same wavelength. Correct me if I'm wrong. You get a thrill out of speaking truth and unlocking minds.
I do. And I just love the fact that we can help people as we do it. And to me, it's worth it. You know, Alex, I hate money. I can't stand it. But whatever I do make, I help people that I care about, whether it's family members or friends or a lady who calls the show and can't make her mortgage payment. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. And I have learned a long time ago that for every good deed you do, it comes back to you by 5 or 10. For every bad deed you do, the same thing happens. So you know what? I'd rather help people than get the other side.
Well, sure, as a good person, you spiritually are that way anyways, but I learned that too. That's what they say about God-fearing. God-fearing means universe-fearing. I mean, I would be, not that I would like to do it, but I would be scared to do things wrong consciously.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is just unconscionable to me to see other people get hurt by these people, these egomaniacs, these lunatics, these greedy son-of-a-guns who are out there doing what they do. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how the globalists, who have more money than we'll ever need, want more. It just defies logic.
Incredible. George, I know you always come on when I drag you on here and then never even plug what you're doing, but tell us about the new book, how folks get us. Tell us about the website. Tell us about the work you're doing, because supporting alternative, truthful media, again, is an example to others who are afraid to tell the truth. George Noory is an example. My show is an example to others. We hit the barbed wire so others can come along later and tell the truth. So it's very important to spread the word and support the work of George Noory. George, tell us again about coasttocoastam.com, your own sites, the books. Give folks a plug.
Well, very quickly, coasttocoastam.com, and you got to put the 2 in there. Coasttocoastam.com. That's our main website. You can go up there and become one of our Twitter followers or our Facebook friends, where we'll send you information as often as possible. Our latest book that we have out there now is called Talking to the Dead. It's a great book about people's obsession with communicating with the other side. It's in every major bookstore, but if you want a discount and you can wait a week to get it, go to Amazon.com and enjoy yourself. And everybody, I hope they all have a wonderful holiday, Alex. I'll be live on Thanksgiving night. That's another thing we do. I made a pledge a long time ago to our audience that if a holiday falls on a regular working day, I'm going to work it. I'm not taking the night off, and I make sure that we've done it. And I haven't missed one holiday that has fallen on a regular work day yet. And I think a lot of people who are lonely out there, who don't have families, appreciate that.
Haven't you even done Christmas?
Oh, yeah. Any Christmas that falls on a work day, I will do. And this coming Christmas, one of my weekend guys, it's on a Sunday, George Knapp will be on. So, and I made sure that if he was taken off, because I was prepared to come on, there's no way we're going to do a taped program on a holiday. But the following New Year's Day, January 1st, I'll be live. I'm coming back from vacation that week. I get 3 weeks, I only take 1. I'll be live on January 1st because, again, the pledge is if we're working a regular day and it happens to be a holiday, it's a live show.
Well, that was my question I wanted to ask you. But, I mean, right there is the evidence of the passion. I'm the same way. I have to make myself take off just to see my family. The passion of the honor. Big, obnoxious hillbilly that I am, to be able to talk to people. The honor to be able to come on your show next Monday night is just incredible. There was some question I said I was going to ask you, but I'd get to it later, and now I don't remember what it was. Do you remember, George?
Was it about the globalists? Was it about...
That was what it was. That's what it was about. Again, I don't get into religious groups. I think everybody's great, whatever. I'm not into bashing groups, so I hate to even mention this, but it is a political statement. What do you make of the Vatican endorsing a global currency, a global bank? I mean, that was just incredible last week.
Well, if it's their bank, I think they'll be even happier. I am not a fan of organized religion, Alex. I'm a believer in God, and I think everybody deserves to worship. And look, I was raised a Catholic, and I'm not knocking the religion, but what I'm saying is that there are human beings in every aspect of this planet, and they are greedy and egotistical, and they do things that are not very good. And, whether it's in, religion or politics, they're out there. And the name of the game right now is consolidation. Let's put this planet under one roof. And that's what they're all trying to do.
Yeah, how do you fight a parking ticket when it's going to somewhere in Europe, to The Hague? But, again, exactly, it's not about Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Jewish, any of this stuff, or atheist. The point is, it's Time Magazine, Newsweek, CFR, all these groups are calling for global government, and I'm just saying, hey, we told you so.
I had a problem with a credit card a few weeks ago, so I called my credit card company. I just wanted to check something out. and they routed me somewhere to some other country, somewhere. And it's obvious. I've talked to enough people. I know accents. And this person is trying to figure out what's wrong, and I'm trying to explain to them what's wrong. And it was a nightmare. I was on the phone for an hour, and I didn't get anything done. And I said, you know what? This entire planet is just topsy-turvy. I think we need to have, autonomy, individual countries. Yes, step in and help people. I think we should be helping the people in Mexico who are so oppressed they have to sneak across the border for fear of getting killed in order to make a few bucks to send back to their families. I think as a country, we need to help these other countries in some form or fashion, but not when the dictators take the billions in aid that we send to them.
Well, you're exactly right again, and Mexico is just a totally failed state, completely imploding. That is the last question. I'll let you go to get some sleep or get ready for your big show tonight. That's midnight Central, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern. I guess it's 11 p.m. Mountain. But fast and furious. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg as we learn more and more about what this government's been doing. Give us 60 seconds on that, George, and we'll say sayonara.
Well, we know what the government's doing. The plan has always been control, control, control. And if the heads of state, who are part of the group that gets to be in control, still stay in power, then they're going to go for it. It's unfortunately human nature to take care of your own, and that's what they're starting to do. They want total control for themselves first, and then, we're by the wayside. Well, one of the good things about the Alex Jones Show and what we do on Coast to Coast is we keep batting away, and one day, people will stand up and say, enough is enough. Not just like the Occupy Wall Street folks or people who truly protest, but it will happen. There's no doubt in my mind that eventually we will win out.
Well, exactly. When you were talking about the Federal Reserve 10 years ago, maybe 1% of America knew it was private. Now it's, in polls, upwards of 80+% know it's private.
Yep.
So we are winning. I think that's why the tyrants are pushing so hard. George Noory, Coast to Coast, AM.com. You'll be on tonight. Again, midnight Central, 10 o'clock Pacific, and I'll definitely, during a break tonight, be tuning in. Thank you so much for spending time with us, George.
Thanks, Alex. I look forward to interviewing you on Monday night.
Absolutely. I'm honored. God bless.
All right. Bye.
Wow, there goes George Noory. Really hard to get him on radio, and he comes on with us. We're just so honored to know him and to talk to him. Out of everybody that's helped us at Infowars, get the word out. You, the listeners, everybody. That's the guy who you've got to say has really, we would be on the map right now. We'd be having close to the same effect, but George Noory just turbocharged it. And, the guy is very confident, very smart, very nice, really into justice. I know him personally, hung out with him some. And he's just a really great guy. Most talk show hosts don't have other talk show hosts on. And he just has really helped pioneer this show and to get it out there. And we really owe George Noory a huge, huge thanks for the InfoWar to help expose the globalist. Not just promoting my show and my material and my information, but more importantly, all the other guests he has on and the issues. You can say, well, he covers these things we can't prove or whatever. He took the show in a whole new direction. Before it was pure UFOs, ghosts, and goblins, which is all interesting, entertaining. The point is, he didn't swing it 180 degrees. He just took it about 90 degrees. Where there was all these other, issues that nobody ever covered at a level like that. So we salute him. We're going to go to break. We've got a bunch of guests coming up, including the one, the only David Icke and others, and then Mike Adams. I'm going to take a quick little break and play part of a little news piece we did on the bankers and all their arrogant statements. We're going to come back, get to some calls, and then David Icke, who's in New Zealand. We're working on time zones on that front. Oh, by the way, I haven't plugged this in 48 minutes. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. That's why we're here for 27 hours. If you want to donate so we can hire more crew, because it's killing us. I wasn't going to do a Money Bomb until I realized I needed the money again, because you got 5 guys doing the nightly news, including myself, 4 people and then myself, and then we got 1 reporter, 1 video editor, 1 switcher guy. Everybody's multitasking. It's hard 5 nights a week. we need to get a couple more people so that we can get even more done and have somebody when somebody's got flu. Like one guy's got to go to a funeral Monday. One person already had vacation. It's going to be 3 of us doing the whole deal Monday. And we're going to be here. We're going to be live 7 o'clock. And then we've been working on the technology to stream it out right and everything. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm not complaining. But we need your support to get more equipment, hire more people, and do it comfortably and not have to worry about cutting other stuff to be able to do it. So donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or if that site's slow because of all the traffic, Infowars.com. And spread the word about this 27-hour broadcast that we're now, I don't know, what are we, almost 20 hours into this bad boy? And we got 21 hours. Yeah, so let me see, 11 o'clock to 5, 6. So we're 21 hours, basically. 21 hours is left ahead of us. We're 6 hours into this right now, a little less than 6 hours into it, and we're going 27. So please spread the word. We got 21 hours left. We've got a rundown of who's coming up next at Infowars.com, the free video streams, everything. PrisonPlanet.tv, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, Infowars. It's going to be crazy. And I, the pot-bellied, pumpkin-headed redneck who loves liberty and hates tyranny, will be here with you. Great job to the crew. We'll be back after this piece on the banksters from the Nightly News a few weeks ago. And then we're going to go to the next information, callers and others. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Be part of it. Stay with us.
What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States? Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And I've had very good relationships with the president.
Are U.S. Treasury bonds still safe to invest in?
Very much so. I think this is not an issue of credit rating. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
The reason the Federal Reserve was founded a century ago was to try to address the problems arising from financial panics, which did, by the way, occur in an unregulated environment in the 19th century. We provided liquidity and short-term loans to help financial systems stabilize. We did that not because we particularly care about the managers.
You say it's not spending money. Well, it's money out of thin air. You put it into the market and you hold assets, and the assets aren't, they are diminishing in value. When you wake up in the morning, do you care about the price of gold?
Well, I pay attention to the price of gold, but I think it reflects a lot of things. It reflects global uncertainties. I think the reason people hold gold is as a protection against what we call tail risk, really, really bad outcomes. And to the extent that the last few years have made people more worried about the potential of a major crisis than they have gold as a protection.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money. Even if it had been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
So my question to you is, will you tell the American people to whom you lent $2.2 trillion of their dollars? Will you tell us who got that money and what the terms are of those agreements?
We explain each of our programs. In terms of the terms, we explain the terms exactly. We explain what the collateral requirements are. We explain what.
To whom did you explain that?
It's on our website.
Yeah, okay.
So all that information is available in our commercial paper program.
And who got the money?
Hundreds and hundreds of banks. Any bank that has access to the U.S. Federal Reserve's discount.
Will you tell us who they are?
No, because the reason that is counterproductive and will destroy the value of the program is that banks will not come to the discount.
Isn't that too bad?
I left Goldman Sachs. I sold my shares in Goldman Sachs.
Tax deferred, too. You didn't have to pay any tax on your $200 million.
I sold my shares in Goldman Sachs. the clause that if you come into the administration, you sell your assets, it's tax deferred. You don't have to pay if you had $200 million profit and you didn't have to pay any tax. Isn't that true?
Listen, is
that true or not? Yes or no?
It is. You do not pay a profit when someone a tax when someone makes you sell assets.
For you become Secretary of Treasury, so you didn't have to pay the tax there.
Oh. The next thing I would say to you, and say it very, very clearly, is I behaved with the...
You don't think you should have recused yourself when you asked Lehman to go in bankruptcy, you didn't put Bear Stearns in bankruptcy, and then you folded Merrill Lynch into... I mean, isn't there some point where you got to say, hey, I got a conflict of interest here? You don't feel any kind of scintilla of ethics on this thing at all?
Totally. I operated very consistently within the ethic guidelines I had as Secretary of the Treasury, and when it became clear that we had some very significant issues with Goldman Sachs and with
why didn't you recuse yourself
with Morgan Stanley? What I did then, it would have been very wrong for me to recuse myself. What I did was I went and got a waiver from the ethics agreement, because when we had concerns...
Who was in charge of the ethics agreement?
What?
Who's in charge of the ethics agreement that you got a waiver?
We have a Office of Ethics and Treasury, and we have a White House Ethics Office.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.
Okay, Mike Adams is coming up. David Icke is over in New Zealand, and he always ends up popping in. We're working out some different feeds here. In case David does call in early or on time or a little bit late with Mike Adams, we'll just let him interview Mike Adams. That should be interesting. Or Michael, go to break. I'll come back, interview Icke, and then put Adams back on, because Adams is here to host for a couple hours while I go over there and watercolor and pen and ink and acrylic paint stuff for the auctions that we're doing that are linked up at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com to fund this operation to buy the new equipment and get some more crew we need hired. And my goal is to get enough subscriptions in the next year to be able to syndicate this thing on TV and not have to do a Money Bomb next year. That is my goal. But I was looking at the numbers, and this Money Bomb is needed, so we're doing it. InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. If you want to donate, I also want to thank the great folks over at Cabo Bob's here in Austin, Texas. They're listeners, and the owner over there is a fan of the show. We want to thank them for the great Mexican food. Don over there for the great Mexican food that they provided to the crew. I'm going to try not to tank up on too much of it, though, because I got to go paint. I was supposed to do this days ago, and then I just got so busy with the nightly news and everything else, I never did it. So, and we were going to videotape me doing this, but I don't know what we're going to do now. It's just gotten more and more insane by the minute. But I want to talk to Lance, Julio, Tina, and Zach, who've been holding. And then if Mike wants to open the phones up, I know he's got some guests coming on with some big breaking news. I'm sure he'll take some calls as well. And there'll be some big segments tonight where I do want to take your calls and get calls on with the guest. And plus, I've got to give people an update. We could have Mike do some updates on the amount of donations that have come in at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. But the issue is we've got 21 hours and 2 minutes left in this extravaganza in the fight against tyranny. And we've got a premiering here. He's done 6 months of research on everything she said, adding all these documents and video clips. And I said, stop, Aaron. It's got to air today. Never before seen or known stuff on Skull and Bones from Charlotte Iserbyt, who had family that was Skull and Bones, her dad and others. That's going to premiere tonight. We've got stuff that's going to premiere with Nick Begich. It's just insane. And I've got some other surprises. Jaron wants to have a chair race around the office. I think we'll iPhone video it, so it'll be next to live, somewhere in the middle hours, the still hours of the night, and then put that up, some fun stuff. I didn't even ask Weldon Henson like last year, but I am undoubtedly not going to sing this year like a demonic tomcat. I'm going to have Weldon Henson, a great singer, come in here and sing. In fact, you heard it, Weldon. He won't be here. He's going to play tonight. We'll make him come after the gig. Yeah, call his butt. I noticed he was all dressed up. So I just had the idea to have Weldon in here. Now he's going to do it. Where's he playing tonight? You want to do a drum solo? I don't know where he's playing. I play the drums on top of my head, just like, all right. Yeah, by the way, guy doing the drums in like Fall of the Republic that sounds so awesome in that intro, just slaying on the drums. Chris in there. Chris, also known as Minion of Jaren. Anyways, I'm just joking. I'm a minion of, you guys have trained me well. They're all Vatican assassins in there, folks. Okay, enough humor. Let's go to Lance in Texas, then Julio, Tina, and Zach, and then we'll bring Mike Adams in here. Go ahead, Lance.
Well, if you're this delirious at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I can't wait till tonight. But I wanted to quickly tell you about walking through or going to the airport, San Francisco, along with DFW.
Your slave rape training? Tell us about it, Lance.
Yes. Well, I was the only one out of my family wearing the 9/11 was an inside job shirt. My brother got body scanned. My parents refused it, and they both got the pat down, and they were trying to make light of it, oh, this isn't a big deal. Well, then they told my mom she had explosives on her, and she's like, what? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's all about how you're guilty. Never checking them, though, who have all this predisposed behavior towards criminality. Pretty soon it's like their proctology exam. Soon it'll be cutting your head off. This is no big deal. It's all about getting into your body. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for doing I'm going to order the 100 bumper stickers. I think that's a great idea because we need to get them out there. But
well, whatever you do, sir, don't plaster them up everywhere. I mean, look, we're not in trouble with light poles with cameras and microphones listening to us. This is not the time to even engage in mild political action with bumper stickers. This is the time to go along with it. It's not the time to climb billboards everywhere and spray paint Infowars.com on it. Don't you dare do it. Hand in your firearms. Give your money to J.P. Morgan immediately.
No way. Hey, I wanted to say two other things. YouTube censorship, I think what they're doing now, I can't even get your uploads. Like when you upload new videos, like I'm blocked from receiving those. So, they may not be censoring them other ways, but that's a way that they could do it that way. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, how about we check that the TSA workers aren't terrorists, and they get proctology exams about like a robot.
Right.
I mean, that's what I said to the TSA. I said, how would I know you're not a terrorist? Lance,
Alex, real quick. I will double my donation if I can get you to do Marvin the Martian saying, I like Red Man.
Oh, dear, I've lost my red man chewing tobacco. I'll have to disintegrate that pesky earth creature. He has Levi Garrett and red man chew. Oh, dear, carcinogenic chewing tobacco. There's nothing I love better.
That's great.
All right. Your donation has gone from 1 penny to 2 pennies.
$50.
Hey, you're awesome, sweethearts all. God bless you, Lance. Julio in Illinois, come on down.
Alejandro, hold on. I got to take a sip of some fluoride water, if that's okay.
Because the government, it's no big deal. Everybody drinks fluoride and has some pot-bellied pedophile grab their genitals in their wife's breast. It happens to everybody in America. America always had microphones in the streetlights. It's all part of the freedom. Americans always ate GMO crops spliced with other insects and animals and pesticides. You're not normal if you don't like it. Don't question it, Julio. Come now.
I love fluoride water. When I went to college,
they won't drink the water.
I went to college. I want to give a shout-out to my friend Tim, who's a big fan of yours, Alex. We went to college at the Police State University known as Western Illinois University, where we had fluoridic acid in our drinking water, which is even better than sodium
But
fluoride.
imagine the psychopaths know that eats your brain and 7-fold increase in cancer, and it's such a sick joke. And then, of course, there's all the other poisons with it, uranium, you name it, just it's for the children. Oh. Every time they lower a kid into a grave, they're just like, oh, God, the satanic power is incredible. Ah, yes. But again, we're not supposed to get upset by that. Everything is fine. Janet Napolitano cares about us.
Yes, Mr. Napolitano cares about myself and my family, and yours as well, Alex. They're just
But as much as we don't like her, look at what a literal bloated bag of maggot vomit she is. Can you imagine being that reeking? I guarantee you, you get anywhere near that woman. I bet if she raised her arm, it smells like 1,000 dead bodies. If you got anywhere near her, it would probably just, the vomit would come out of you. She's got an Eddie Munster, like, you know, white hair and everything. I mean, can you imagine her? Can you imagine the stench of this giant maggot worm?
You can tell she has no soul, Alex. That's why she's Homeland Security Secretary, because she's so compromised with all her filth that she's done. You know, she's perfect to...
No, she's 250 gallons of toilet bowl scum.
Alex, a couple comments, and then I want to wish you best of luck. Number one, Saturday night I'm getting set to go to a friend's house to watch my favorite band, Humphreys McGee, online, and I see out of the corner of my eye while driving, I almost, when I called last year about the Army trucks, I almost got into an accident watching them. I almost get into an accident. I see towards my right, I see our beloved Homeland Security, a Homeland Security truck, TSA truck driving through.
Oh, yeah, around here they've got the buses with her on the side staring at you, saying, don't trust anyone but me, basically. I'm serious. People won't believe it. Type in Homeland Security ads on buses. I swear I've seen them in Austin. And it's literally her. It's all about, I'm in your life whether you like it or not. I'm telling you, trust no one but me. The fish woman. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this was a legitimate Homeland Security truck. I was following it. I was trying to do a video. It was, not late at night. It was about like 8 o'clock at night, so it's pitch dark. And yeah, so like you said, coming up on 11/9/11, so fitting for FEMA to do their media takeover. I have a feeling when you talked about the TSA checkpoints, they'll probably do one in suburban Chicago. So if they do that, I'm going to have to film it because...
because they bring that to the mob that runs that, and they're like, yeah, when we rob banks, everybody's got to get down on the floor. You want to train these slaves even more? Crush them. And they sit back and, you like a chicken leg and throw it, and, bring me more slaves. I mean, it's all just the attitude of, look at these scum Americans. We'll get their guns. We'll shut down their churches. We'll feed them poison. Right, boss? Nothing can stop us. Yeah, look at the creature we got, Napolitano. She does whatever we tell them, and they do it too. Whoever thought Americans were so dumb will put up with it all? It never ends. I'm sorry, Lilio. I'm doing like a Chicago/New York imitation. But I can do a Boss Hogg, too. I'm not bashing Northerners. I tell you what, boy, there's nothing these slaves won't put up with. Ain't that right, Paul? You're going to show them. You're going to learn them. We're going to have pot-bellied pedophiles grope their women and children at TSA for a terror attack we did, boss. Sorry, go ahead.
Don't worry. You talked about the evilness of Rick Perry. I mentioned I was going to go last week to see him up in Des Moines. I went with my pal Tim, and you're right. I was going to ask him a question about Bilderberg. I tried to play nice, brought up Texas A&M football to weasel my way, make a slick Rick feel comfortable. But I tell you what, Alex, I felt very uncomfortable next to Rick Perry. I mean, the evilness. No,
folks. I don't tell people things unless, it really happened. That's why I admitted that I wanted to get on the flight, was tired, and was just sick of it, and rationalized, well, I'll be able to report on what happens. Go ahead and grope me. People are like, well, how dare you not stand up? I was just honest about it. I'm honest about what happens. And Rick Perry, literally, I've been around him a couple times. He actually sends like a shudder up you like he's a vampire. He really creeps you out when you're in person with him. He came over to my table once to leer at me like he was like a vampire or something. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I felt that. I looked at his face, and he was like a wrinkly-looking...
No, he looks like a zombie. He looks like a vampire. Who's the guy that played the vampire in the 70s and 80s movies? Christopher Lee. He played Saruman, and, it's like Saruman, I'm telling you.
And then quickly, I was going to confront Newt Gingrich on Bohemian Grove. It was a faith and freedom conference. It was like a Christian event. So definitely they were pimping out the evangelical vote, which made me want to vomit being a Christian. But I saw Newt Gingrich. I was very close to ask him about, number one, the Christian conservative values, and then get him on Bohemian Grove.
This is a guy who divorced his wife while she was dying of cancer. And told her, hey, I got a new wife, and then divorced her. But that's a side issue. People get divorced. The thing is, he's for carbon taxes. He wrote the foreword to the Toffler book calling for world government. He is a sack of crap. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, he looks like a sad, depressed man. I mean, I looked at his eyes, and he looked awful. All these politicians, except for Ron Paul, I mean, you can tell once you're waking. If you see them in person and you look into their eyes, you can tell they're just sad.
No, Ron Paul, it's the opposite. He's a machine. What is he, 76 now? I mean, Ron Paul is a machine, and he is old, but he's stronger than them. He's stronger than these people.
You showed that Darren McBreen piece on propaganda and stuff like that in the media manipulation, studying broadcasting at school, and having you wake me up along with others. It's so easy to pick up media spin these days, and so easy to see.
Here's an example. Here's an example. They had an article off KXAN yesterday I didn't get to about the first body scanner going in Austin Bergstrom right down the road from me, and it said Abdul Muhammad. In fact, go see if, Dude's already left for the day. He's going on vacation, but they gave me that article last night. It was at KXAN, first body scanners go in. And it's like Abdul Muhammad is the first to go through it. They picked a Muslim to interview, so people reading that article and seeing the TV show, there's a newscast, think, oh, it's for the Muslims. Of course, they use that stereotype to sell it to the public. I mean, and again, you read that, and it's like these reporters think it's cute to be deceptive. They're told, you want to move up here at this operation, you need to learn how to deceive people. And so, but it was more like, go ahead and do a positive piece on this. And then they creatively figure out how to be positive for the naked body scanners for Michael Chertoff. And then they go out of all the people flying and pick a Muslim guy named Muhammad, so they probably interviewed 50 people so they could say, see, a Muslim is going through the scanner. And he doesn't mind it. It's just pure crap. I appreciate your call, Julio. Tina in Florida, Zach, and then we're going to go to break and come back with Mike Adams in the catbird seat, in the crow's nest, in the cockpit, in the command seat, in the center of the info war. Let's go to Tina in Florida. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. And hi, Mike, too. Do you know that they're using eugenics on our animals, cats and dogs, too?
Well, I know they put chips in them to train us. I know they make them and give them vaccines every year, and it kills them. Till the point where so many dogs were dying, the vets have now said only vaccinate a dog twice in its life. But no, tell me about the eugenics with the animals.
Well, they also have the cancer vaccines in the, medicines that they give the dogs.
The love shots, yes.
Yeah, horrible side effects, itching, allergies, and seizures. So I just wanted to let you know that they're doing that to animals, too.
Oh, yeah, well, I knew they were doing that, and I mean, that's all part of the eugenics. But look at dogs. They're all, quote, bred. That's what it's all about. What do you think of the 27-hour transmission we're in the middle of right now?
I think that's great, Alex, and thank you, George. That was an awesome talk that you had with him, and I think more and more people are wakening up, and I think when you think about something, the other person also thinks about the same thing. As far as awakening and your thoughts on getting everybody together and just letting everybody know what's really going on with the government.
Well, you're right.
And the vaccines, too. Those are really, really important.
Well, I mean, Tina, if we can just get people to not read the information sheet they hand out when they're pushing the flu shot or whatever, that's a BS thing put out by Big Pharma or the pharmacy, and we get them to actually read the insert that comes in the box, our problems are over. I mean, brain cancer, tumors, death, epilepsy. I mean, the list goes on and on. Parkinson's, narcolepsy. Did I mention Guillain-Barré? I mean, read the stinking insert. That's the thing. They're killing us, but no one can believe they're actually doing it. That's what's so crazy. By the way.
Right. And my mom, she thinks that we're going overboard on everything that we talk about.
Well, God bless your mother. Again, I was talking to a former famous, he was a well-known prosecutor, in Miami. I was talking to Lionel, TV host and syndicated radio host out of New York. And he was a prosecutor, and he pointed out he would always run into it with the defense, because the defense will use whatever they know is human psychology and works. And I appreciate your call, Tina. And they would say, but why would this woman drown her baby? Well, why would he bury the children in his backyard? But why? They always try to make it about why. It doesn't matter why. We have the proof they're doing it. But the globalists write books telling us why they're doing this. They think there are too many of us, and they're playing God. Well, I say they go first, and then I'll take them serious. You see? And we've actually documented why. But still, when you're talking to somebody who's not a murderer, who's not a control freak, somebody like me, I never get tired of tasty food, fishing, laying out in the sun, lifting weights, hanging out with my family, working. I never get tired of just simple pleasures. I mean, I could never get tired of, I don't even do it anymore, of getting a cigar at about 10 o'clock at night when you're home and just getting a beer, a glass of wine, firing that cigar up, and sitting back and relaxing. I mean, who are these rich people and powerful people who want more? You want more than a chili relleno? You want more than a beer? You want more than a beautiful woman? More? Like, I want more. Let me beat myself in the head with a hammer. But that's what aberrant people are into. They like the power of blowing up countries. They like the power of robbing banks. They like the power of kidnapping kids. They're screwed up. And those of us that aren't aberrant, I mean, we still get angry and still have problems and still think bad things, you know, whatever. But we're guilty about it. You know, when I get mad at somebody and imagine punching them in the nose, I'm literally like, that's not right. You shouldn't be like that. The point is, these evil people are into not feeling bad, not having a conscience, not having a governor psychologically in them. And those of us that aren't evil, who aren't inherently lovers of evil, all of us are evil to a certain extent. We're also good to a certain extent. We're mixed. We're complex creatures. We can't imagine people want to do this. I mean, that's what psychologists, police always say when they find a tank full of 5 dead kids, you know, in somebody's refrigerator. And it's like, why? You know, the cops will ask the guy when they're taking him to jail, why the hell did you do this? Why grab 5-year-olds off the street and torture them? Why are you asking why? Just, it's a psychopath. Stop being naive. Stop thinking bad things can't happen just because you wouldn't do them, okay? I mean, I don't know why. When I was like 11 years old, I got off the school bus, and some older kids came over and said, you want to play baseball? And I said, yeah. And I went and got my baseball bat and my mitt, and I walked down to the woods where they were, and they beat me up for an hour. And I was like, why? Because they're little cowardly people who are 4 or 5 years older who want to beat somebody up. It doesn't matter. I'm not a vindictive person, but I happen to run into most of them in the next few years. And you know what? Some of them aren't the same today, and I'm not proud of that, by the way. But the point is here is that we need people to stop being so childlike. We need people to stop being so naive. When I was a child, I was a child. But as I became a man, I gave up the things of a child. And I've certainly taken on the things of a man, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why do men do what they do? I didn't know why men did what they did when I was a little kid. Now I understand it. I don't know why. It's what we do. You know what I mean? The good, the bad, and the ugly. But when I was a child, I was a child. But when I became a man, I gave up the things of a child. And you need to stop being childlike, folks. That's the key to defeating the globalists. Mike Adams is coming up. We're going to go to this piece here. What's the piece we're going to before we come back with Adams? Oh, Zach in Houston. Go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
Alexander, I got a MoneyBomb word out for you.
Okay.
Yeah! I'm the dude. I gave you the American Silver Eagle in Houston Federal Reserve.
Well, thank you, sir.
Silver coin. Hell yeah. Hey, congratulations and thanks for waking us all up. I've burned over 5,000 DVDs since 2008 of your stuff, and I'm just happy to be a donor to the MoneyBomb. I donate to Ron Paul. Last year I threw you $800. I do AC. I scrapped all my scrap metal, and you got it all, brother, and we get it all, you know?
No, wait a minute. I want you to spend your scrap metal money on making copies of my DVDs and giving them to people, but don't save your scrap metal to give it to us here, because then I'll feel guilty when I order the crew food or something, because I'll be realizing people are giving everything they got so we can sit around and eat pizza here, but I like to take care of the crew, but I mean, listen, going back to this, the power of you, Zach, the power of you making thousands of DVDs of my films and giving them out, that's innumerable. And here's the problem. They're coming out with new DVD players and computers where if it's not stamped by a company, it won't even work. As if you have something pirated just because you copied something. Again, they're scared. Everything's being built in with spy systems. So, folks, use the internet.
I got one more.
No, I'm going to let you finish. But, folks, use the internet, use the DVDs, use everything while we still got it. We probably aren't always going to have it. FEMA, in 6 days, is practicing a total takeover of all the media. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I wanted to call in the other day, but I was working and believe me, I make plenty on the air conditioning. The scrap metal is just lining you up. No, I went in there and I wanted to call you when you asked about what's our take on Fast and Furious, and no one will call and bring up the topic. My deal is, what about when they use the illegal immigrant to shut down the Austin gun show? I mean, it's the exact same, the same.
No. Go back to that a year and a half ago. I said this is a Justice Department program using the threat of Mexico to take the guns. They've given press conferences. We've got all the proof. And it turned out all over the U.S., they used illegal immigrants that they'd busted in ICE raids, who they said will make you legal if you go do this, and they'd go around all day with fake IDs till they found an American to sell them a gun, a private sale. And, yeah, that was set up. I'm glad you brought that up. Remind people of that.
Exactly. Well, I'll let you get off here so you can get on with it.
No, but go back to the time. I mean, go back to the time that happened.
What do you mean? Sorry.
No, tell the rest of the story for folks that forgot.
Oh, yeah. They sent there was a private buy, which is perfectly legal, that happened at a gun show in Austin. They sent in a undercover agent, but it was a Mexican national and illegal that was here and had been apprehended before. And they gave him, he had a legal Texas identification card. And he went in, presented it. The guy did everything legally and lawfully. He said, hey, you'll go into a gun show, some guy will just sell you a gun, won't ask for nothing. And that's fine. But then this guy said, no, I want to see your ID, because he was probably kind of suspicious. The guy gives him the ID. He writes down the info. It's Texas. It's valid. It's in date. And I'll be damned if it wasn't a phony law enforcement officer, and a total straw man operation, just like they did to Selly. And it's disgusting the way they want to do this. That's why everybody needs to arm themselves to the teeth, in my opinion.
No, we have a criminal government that is doing this with Mexico to get our guns so that this piece of trash can have our weapons. And we've got to just get the word out. These are crooks, and stop. When young women would get in the car with Ted Bundy because they said he was wearing a suit, driving a non-threatening Volkswagen, and he'd torture the hell out of them. These are criminal scum who've been caught. They need to go to prison. They're illegitimate. I appreciate you, Zach. God bless you. I appreciate your support. We're going to go to this little piece of newscast and come back with Mike Adams for the next hour and a half at least. He'll cover the news, have his guest on, and take your calls. He's got breaking news. Hey, no rest for the hillbilly, though. I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to go over some of this news when I get back. And then David Icke was saying, I want to be on at 8 o'clock New Zealand time, and then it was 10 o'clock New Zealand time, so he'll probably be on later. He's been late before and gotten time zone screwed up. Who couldn't? He's on, he's 10,000 whatever miles away or whatever, more. New Zealand's on the total other side. Is that 12,000 miles? I forget. He's on the other side of the globe. We're working on that. We got Gerald Celente coming up a lot more, but Mike Adams is coming in here after this break, and then I'll continue with your phone calls and a lot more and a lot of news. So that's all coming up. It's Infowars, MoneyBomb.com. Bare minimum, spread the word about the free video links at Infowars.com or InfowarsMoneyBomb.com or PrisonPlanet.tv. And donate. I want to thank folks that have donated. Thank you so much. With that $100,000 plus that's come in, we can hire a couple crew members and buy some of the equipment we need, but we need to raise the $500,000 to really kick it into high gear. Or I can burn through the little bit of reserves we've got. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Whatever. Point is, it's your voluntary right to give to this if you believe in it. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. We'll be back with Mike Adams, the Health Ranger of NaturalNews.com. Stay with us.
Is this the first time you've ever seen the mural?
No, I'm actually, I live here, so I come through and check it out every now and then. I'm taking pictures. I read about it online, looked it up.
What do you think it means?
I can only tell you what I read. Basically, it seems like there's a soldier cutting through the dove of peace, and his sword is an Arabian sword. I'm not sure about the women and the angel type things. And the towers here, very familiar to a lot of people. Kind of look like 911 towers. So,
I can see that.
I don't know, strange thing to have in this airport.
What are your thoughts when you see something like this?
I think it's very well done. It's impactful. Color scheme's great. Theme seems a little austere for an airport, but...
You don't think there's a nefarious hidden agenda, hidden meaning behind it or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that theory a lot. Maybe, underground prisons under Denver or DIA, all that stuff. Could be. I'm a little skeptical.
So this is the first time you've ever seen this mural?
Yeah, the first time I've ever seen it.
Let's take a look. I mean, what are your thoughts when you look at something like that? Do you think it's kind of an odd mural to be put in an airport? Or?
Not necessarily. I think it explains a lot.
Okay, such as?
Such as just, America and everything else. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and it pretty much shows what's going on. There's a night, he's taking care of things. There's people that are suffering, and he looks like he's taking over and taking care of it.
So he's like a protector, you think?
I think he's a protector, you're wearing a gas mask, and you have a sword in your hand. What else are you doing?
Is this the first time you've ever seen the mural?
Yes, it is. I've seen it on the internet before.
So, all right, so you've seen it on the internet, and I saw you turn the corner, you're like, oh my God, here it is. So, all right, so what are your thoughts on it?
I've heard some theories where there's like an underground facility in this airport. It's just like really dark and kind of scary looking.
It is a little creepy looking, yeah.
Machine gun wielding. And the crying innocents in the background. Yeah, it's kind of creepy. Fleeing? That's real creepy.
Oh, it's just, this is kind of sad, obviously. A kid who died in Auschwitz, 14 years old.
Yeah.
That, basically their childhood was taken away from them through everything they went through, it looks like. They hate enemies, they hope that one day they'll be able to wake up and laugh again. It's sad that there's people out there that think like that.
Some people say it's put here to kind of distract people from what really goes on in DIA.
Don't you think it's an odd place to put a mural like this in an international airport? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It is. If you wanted to send a message to someone, it's kind of the best place.
So you think this is more of an artistic endeavor, with the symbolism and everything? This guy kind of looks like a Nazi, but is there any hidden meanings, a dark hidden meaning, or is this more kind of an artistic piece,
I'm not someone who looks at things in a dark, hidden type of way, so to me, I don't look at it like that. The most disturbing piece of this whole thing is just that. That's what gets me the most.
What about the rumors that there's a whole underground type of bunker here? Have you heard those as well?
Those?
Do you think there's any truth to that?
Definitely possible. More possible than what they give you on the news.
It looks funny the way that you can see when you're coming in. You can see that there's construction's been over for years here, but there's construction everywhere, all over, going on the grounds of the airport.
Continuous construction at all
constantly, and you can see them actually working up because once it's a hill and it'll have a road that goes around it, and you come back a year later and there's two roads because the hill's kind of moved up, as if the hills are expanding upwards.
You think it's an odd place to have a mural like this in an international airport?
Absolutely. I don't know what its place is here or why it's here. It's definitely not something you expect to see walking through an airport, though.
I hear you.
Hundreds of nations have fallen to tyranny in the last century alone. This is our last chance to not relive history.
As we're finishing off this agenda, they'll be pulling the rug from underneath Americans at home.
have tremendous influence on our president and Congress, and they really are calling the shots.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us as American citizens to pay attention.
Fall of the Republic identifies the enemies of our nation, the criminal offshore cartel, hell-bent on destroying sovereignty, and on its ashes constructing world government.
Tim Geithner, Bernanke, they're arsonists. They're asking for more matches. And the Congress is saying, who do we make the check out to?
Today seems like nobody does care. And right now in Washington, D.C., we have seen a fall of the Republic.
Get your copy of Fall of the Republic on DVD at Infowars.com or watch it online right now in super high quality at prisonplanet.tv.
We now take you live
To the Central Texas Command Center.
in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
I tell you, as we get more and more dependent on computers, it really illustrates the problems that we face as a society. Because David Icke is in the other side of the world, I think it's New Zealand. For an hour, he's been sending us his phone number because when he got up in the morning, he was going to give it to us, and it's not come through our email. So here he is, 45 minutes later than he would have been, and he's been sending it. And I've seen that with emails at my home, here, you name it. It's like they're going somewhere first, and then I get them later. It's just amazing. And they admit they're going through these. So who knows what's been going on. We're going to talk to David for about 30, 40 minutes, and then Mike Adams will be here for 2 hours on them arresting people, selling raw milk. Now they're going after folks drinking it like it's PCP or something. They've got to destroy it first. Mike, you're going to be back in about 30, 40 minutes after we talk to David Icke, who, thank God, came through. His emails finally, 3 of them just came through. We can see the timestamps that they were held up, I guess, from the other side of the world. I mean, it took a year to get a letter, so it's not too bad. But something might be going on. Mike Adams, the health ranger, what's coming up when you're filling in for me coming up?
All right, well, first of all, big hello to David Icke. It's great that he's on. I just want to give a shout out to all of the Natural News fans and listeners out there. That I'll be back on right after David Icke, and we have a lot to cover. The raw milk protest that just took place. We've got guests calling in from Occupy Oakland, and there was a lot of crazy stuff that went on there in the last day.
An attack on Whole Foods, probably provocateur.
Whole Foods attack, yeah. So that's who I have on. We got a lot of great information coming out, and people will definitely want to stay tuned and listen in for that.
All right. Well, thank you, naturalnews.com. Thank you, Mike. We'll talk to you in a moment. Now going to David Icke for an abbreviated 30-minute interview because he's got stuff he's got to do. David, you're in New Zealand, right?
Yes, mate. I arrived literally a few hours ago, so I've not had a lot of sleep. But, it's the last stage of a Australian New Zealand speaking tour, which has been unbelievable. If anyone who wants to have confirmation that the world is waking up, just not parts of the world, they should have been with me in the last 7 weeks. I mean, when you get 2,000 people turning up at one event in a place called the Gold Coast in Australia, you know, given that I've been here a few times and talked to a phone box often before, you know that there's a wake-up going on worldwide.
Well, there certainly is. I mean, I'm seeing this wake up worldwide. People who aren't well known or whose faces aren't recognizable kind of feel like they're alone. But when you are a David Icke or a George Noory or an Alex Jones, you do run into the people. And I'm telling you, David, 10 years ago, maybe 1 out of 15 people I walked by on a street anywhere in the U.S. would stop and talk to me. Now it's every 4 or 5. I can't go out in public now. And it must be wild for you. And it's not, oh, look, we're well-known, we're celebrities. You were a celebrity before you even got involved in this stuff, champion goalie, national TV host, head of the Green Party. But are you not seeing the same thing now, the feedback? And I think it's important for those of us that are recognized to be able to tell the public the dominoes have already fallen. That's why the elite's getting ready to start all these new wars. David, what's happening in Europe with the Vatican calling for world government, global currency, the open call for Israel to attack Iran? It seems like the quickening is upon us.
Yes, it is. I mean, there comes a point, I said it years ago, when something's being manipulated covertly into place, that can go on for a while, but there comes a point where the new society that you want to introduce has to break the surface where it can be seen. And that's what we're seeing now, this window of opportunity where It's not sometime over the rainbow anymore. It's not this is coming if. It's here. It's how deeply are we going to allow it to go in, and how much are we going to pull it back from where it's already got. And so we're now seeing the real blatant unfolding and calling for this whole structure of global fascist centralized control that we've been talking about all these years. And I think there's another thing here as well, which I've been aware of, Alex, for a long, long time. And that is that as this awakening more and more manifests itself, and although, these protests around the world, lots and lots of people involved, fantastic that they're doing that, but they have to get streetwise to the game that's being played, otherwise the game will play them and use their genuineness to do it. But this awakening is reaching the point where a massive Rubicon has been crossed. It's like in the Matrix movie where Neo is asked to accept the fact that he's a slave. That's the big Rubicon. Okay, I understand my situation. I'm a slave. Next thing, I'm not having it anymore. And this is where these protests, the genuine people out there around the world doing this, they've crossed that line. I realize I'm a slave. I realize the world is deeply corrupt beyond anything I thought before, and I'm not having it. Now the next stage is to get streetwise, because if that doesn't happen, then you can get manipulated into calling for things that force which you are out there challenging actually wants to introduce. And so what we're seeing, for instance, now in Europe is the euro being basically attacked because of a simple reason. People say, well, it's not good for the euro that it's not working. It's not supposed to work. They want a one-world single electronic currency. Therefore, they have to make currencies in all the forms that they are now not to work so they can offer the solution and the solution until they get to that point of a single electronic currency. So what the euro has been is a stalking horse. All over Europe, you had the lira, the franc, the Deutschmark, all these different currencies. Now, if you want a one-world currency, you've got to mop them up. And if you're going to mop them up one after the other, in terms of individual countries, then it's going to take you a long while. So you introduce a single currency for all those former multiple currencies in Europe, and you introduce the euro. Now the lira's gone, the franc's gone, the Deutschmark's gone. In one fell swoop, you've done it. Apart from one or two like Britain, I still have the pound. But then, next stage, you've got to make eventually the euro not work, because that's not your end product. Your single electronic currency is your end product, and thus we're seeing the undermining of the euro. I'm not saying it will disappear tomorrow, but it will disappear eventually. And for it to disappear, it's got to be made not to work, and for people to think something has to replace it. And that's the way we're going all over the world. And when you've got the Vatican, which is the Church of Babylon relocated, I mean, you do the historical research, the Church of Babylon relocated to Rome. They just changed the names. And so it's absolutely in line with the whole plot that a Vatican organization would come out and join George Soros and all these other people calling for a central bank, a world central bank. And this is the big point, Alex, in terms of the protesters, because I've seen some of this over the last few weeks, where people are being manipulated to, some of them anyway, to call for some kind of democratic world authority to take over the banks, democratic control of the banks and all this stuff. It's a scam. It's what they want. I mean, let's just analyze this. We have got into this mess of the control of the few over the many in a simple process, the constant, incessant centralization of power in all areas of our lives. They gave it a name decades ago, globalization. That's just the agenda unfolding. So we got into this situation because control of the banking system is in the hands of so few people. Therefore, the few dictate and run the financial system for the many. This is where this whole thing about the 1% and the 99% has come from. You look at government, centralization of power in Europe now, because the European Parliament's just a a talking shop to give the illusion of any kind of democratic, process in the European Union. It's dictated from Brussels by dark suits that are appointed by the cabal. So now the central few in Europe are dictating to the whole European population that are involved in the European Union. And so we're in this mess now where countries like Greece cannot individually respond to their problems. They have to do it collectively through this centralized organization because they're all members of the same currency, the euro. And where I'm going with this is this. We have got into the situation that has got people onto the streets of the world for the incessant centralization of power. So are we going to say the answer to that is even more centralization of power? Let's take it onto a global level now. Instead of having a European central bank dictating to the economies and currencies of Europe, let's have a world central bank, and then they can do it to every country in the world. It's the other way, surely, we need to go. When the cabal has spent centuries and more incessantly centralizing power in the world, it's because it suits them. It's because the more you centralize power, the more power the few have over the many, and the more you centralize power, the more power you then have to centralize even quicker. This is why the speed of globalization, as it's called, has got quicker and quicker and quicker. So they want to go incessantly towards centralization of power on a global level. Therefore, we the people, surely, want to go the other way, where people in their communities are having a say in the decision-making over their communities, where there's such diversity of power that no central cabal can run a state, never mind a country, never mind a world. This is the way we need to go. And I just say this to the people on the streets in the protest. If anyone comes along, organizations or individuals or whatever, and they're calling for a centralization of power on a global level to solve the problem reaction solution that these people are protesting about, then they're either completely ignorant of the way the game is being played and where the game wants to go, or they are manipulating you on behalf of the game.
David, very powerfully said, and that's what the Trilateral Commission said they would do in the 70s, and it's so transparent to those of us that are awake that we see clearly they always hold you hostage and say, give more centralization to us, and then the crisis only gets worse, and they say, okay, now I've got you deeper in, give us more.
Exactly.
But these vampires are being exposed. I mean, I'll tell you now, Jesse Ventura's trying to get a hold of you, and a lot of his material he wasn't convinced of, but the deeper he gets into it, he's looking at the fact that they're trying to suppress what you're doing because it could end the whole existing religious order. So I do, when the interview ends, want to try to give you their number so they can hopefully interview you, even if it's for Skype, for the TV show. And in the TV show, I'm not naive like I was 12 years ago and turned the punch bowl, but I play devil's advocate. I say people didn't believe what David Icke had to say before, and some would say that it makes us feel powerless, that it's this off-world power. But, there's a lot of credence to what he has to say, so you need to talk to David Icke. I've been interviewed by him, and I send him to you. So I hope that happens because, that's part of their whole research. I know you're very busy, but
I think actually, Alex, I'm going to talk to him later today, which will be good. I listened to an interview you did with Fritz Springmeier the other day, and I've see what's happened to Fritz and stuff, and I met Fritz a long time ago, and this stuff that we've been talking about the Satanism, the worshipping of the gods, the blood drinking, and all that stuff.
Did you know they've confirmed in Canada, I'm going to just interrupt you, this is in like the Globe and Mail and Toronto Star, that at these reservations over half the kids were being killed, and now they have witnesses that say the Queen of England 30 years ago was there and took 10 kids with her? I mean, this is in the Canadian news. This is crazy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I saw that, Alex, and of course at least a number of the witnesses that
are dead.
That they saw him are no longer alive, I mean, it's funny, I've been in Australia, and I offered the Queen a ticket, but she didn't turn up because she was out here at the same time, right?
But you were getting into Satanism, and I interrupted you.
Yeah, she was having a walkabout in Melbourne when I was there. It was hilarious, really. But and you see people bowing to them, and there was this controversy and scandal that the Prime Minister of Australia didn't curtsy when she met the Queen. I mean, it's unbelievable the level of childishness that some people in this world are involved in. But the thing about Satanism, it's a wider point, Alex, really, and I completely understand it. And this is why the challenge now for people who are waking up to, hey, the world's not like I thought it was, it is a real challenge to way open the mind. It's like Socrates in ancient Greece is supposed to have said, wisdom is knowing how little we know. Well, you know, it's not that you believe everything, you don't, but you don't dismiss things by reflex action just because they're so different, because this is the point. The difference between the world that we're sold through our lives, through the media and the education system and all the rest of it, the world as it works and what's going on, and the powers that are deciding things, is so unbelievable, breathtakingly, staggeringly different to the world that's really going on in the shadows and what's going on in the shadows, that chasm is a real challenge for people to leap, to think from their perspective of a lifetime about this is how the world works, this is how I've always understood it, to leap into what's actually going on.
Yeah, we're investigating that chasm.
Yeah, it is. It's a major challenge, but we need to do it because the rabbit hole is very, very deep. And the deeper you go in the rabbit hole, not only do you understand so much more, what it's like is when we're looking at the banking scams and the political scams and the engineered wars and all these things that need to be exposed, and we're all doing our best to do it, symbolically, we're actually looking at a movie when it's hit the screen. When you go deeper in the rabbit hole and deeper in the rabbit hole, you get closer and closer to the projector that's projecting onto that screen. In other words, all the stuff in the background that manifests plays out as men in dark suits manipulating the banking system and orchestrating 9/11 and all that stuff, and the people in the military doing that, and intelligence. And so you get closer and closer, not only to understanding the real force behind the world that we experience every day, but also the answers to it, how to unravel it, because that's where the answers lie as well. And these people have been involved in satanic ritual, these bloodlines, right back to the ancient world for a long time because of the way humanity in general had, its attitudes at that time. They did it openly. They did, open sacrifices to the gods. And by the way, this is an important point. They sacrificed young virgins to the gods. What's young virgins code for? Children. And there's a reason for this. That the children's energy changes at puberty. I mean, we see a hormonal change at puberty, but actually it's an energetic change which manifests through as a hormonal change. These people want that child's energy before that change takes place that we call puberty, when they move in towards
they want the purity, they want the innocence. And I want to raise this to you. That's why I'm glad you're here, David. I want to go over this point with you. I remember you over a decade ago talking about this, Fritz as well, but you even before, talking about the Transylvanian bloodlines. The British royalty really isn't even British. They're German, but they're not German. They're Transylvanian. Yep. Now the Prince of Wales, who calls for world population reduction and all the rest of this, he has come out and he's bought a house in Transylvania in the Carpathian Mountains and Forest. He says, yes, my main ancestor is Vlad the Impaler. Yeah. And then Vlad had all these kids that killed kids and bathed in their blood, these women. Yep. This is Count Dracula, and now he's hanging out a lot of the time in Transylvania. And again, these legends all go back to at least something real. And then you see the British royalty, which is really Transylvanian, pushing world government, pushing population reduction, pushing cancer viruses, World Bank programs in Uganda and Honduras, mainstream news the last month, mowing villagers down to take their property. These really are the psychic vampires, bare minimum. And some say maybe David Icke's right. Maybe it's not vampires, it's something else. But, I mean, my God, who could make this? I remember you talking about that 15 years ago. Why is it now manifesting? Why is he taking on his Transylvanian bloodline and literally, reportedly moving into the birthplace of Vlad the Impaler?
Well, Mary of Texe, who was the grandmother of the present queen, I think it was the grandmother of the present queen, she is a direct descendant from the sister of Vlad Dracula. So the whole stuff is in there. And Vlad Dracula, of course, was that whole family that he was part of was the inspiration for the Dracula stories. And, like I say, these people have been doing it openly before humanity grew up to a large extent, and it was no longer acceptable. And now they do it behind the scenes, but they're doing the same things. And, Vlad Dracul, he used to impale people on spears and stuff, and they just let them rot to death.
But now they admit the British royalty even 100, 200, 300 years ago was eating human flesh. I just showed a Daily Mail.
I know. But of course, it's like I said in my latest book. It wasn't hundreds of years ago. The last time that the royal family ate human flesh, it was probably a week last Tuesday. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the chasm, Alex, that I was talking about a few minutes ago. The chasm to encompass at least the possibility, and it's more than possibility. This is fact, but at least the possibility that these people that we see on CNN and the BBC and the Queens and the Royal, and that's the other point. That's not you made the point now about German and Transylvania, but that's the same of the Spanish royal family, the Danish royal family, the Swedish royal family, the Belgian royal family, the Norwegian royal family. When you look at them, they're like branches of the same bloodline network, and thus they are like chief executive officers placed into countries to run the show on behalf of the cabal. And of course, when we had this resistance to overt, in-your-face royal dictatorship, and what we call politics started to move in and take that over because it was power to the people. Some of these bloodlines stayed in overt royal situations, like the British royal family and etc., and those others. But a lot of the other royal bloodlines that still are perceived as royal because they have a particular genetics, they went into the dark sleep professions. They went into run the banks and run the politics, run the transnational corporations. And so this bloodline, which it's like the peak of an iceberg, tip of an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg of the bloodline is what you can see. People that are in certain positions of power and head of state because of their genetics, like the British royal family. But under the water, under the scanner, under the radar of that iceberg are all these bloodlines like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and what have you, who are the same bloodline network, but they wear dark suits instead of coronets. But it's the same thing, and it's often the ones that don't wear the coronets that have more power in the network than those who do. So it's.
Well, let's go back to Dracula, though.
All of them, Alex, are involved in this Satanism because that's what that bloodline does. I explain it in detail.
But David, let me stop you because as this becomes more apparent, it becomes more and more, as I research more and more, it becomes more apparent that you're onto something. We have all these archetypes. I've studied more history. The Greeks would actually have hunting of vampires. The Romans did it. Every culture feared this, whether they were psychopaths that thought they were people that needed blood or whatever. The point is, this group has always been amongst us. They get into power. They set up public bloodletting, public sacrifice. Nero.
That's absolutely right.
Nero's on record.
Sacrifice to them.
Nero dressed up like a werewolf and would go at public parties and chain down a slave and chew out their throat. That's mainline history. So why? Where is this going? What are they going to do as we awaken? How does it tie into the Satanism? Because whatever's behind it, the point is these people are there. We have the archetypal aristocrat in the tuxedo with the cloak who's really a blood-drinking killer. I mean, what is the legends telling us?
Well, I mean, let's go some way deep into this from where this is coming from my point of view. When you do the research of ancient legends and accounts and what people call myths, but ancient myths have such a symbolic truth when you get into them deeply. They talk of a reptilian-type race that came to Earth and started to manipulate and impose itself on humanity. And one of the interesting things is, and I think very, very significant, is every single one of these legends in different parts of the world talk about the fact that these reptilian entities demanded human sacrifice. The legends in southern Africa say that these Chitahuri, the children of the serpent as they call them, introduced cannibalism, which didn't happen before they arrived. And when you have these ancient stories, legends, accounts of the sacrificing humans to the gods, children overwhelmingly to the gods, then these are the gods they were sacrificing them to. Because, let's get into it. These entities operate overwhelmingly outside of this incredibly narrow band of human visual sight, which is called visible light. It's unbelievable how narrow band of frequency that we are actually perceiving when we look through our eyes, compared with, this is mainstream science, compared with what is actually existing in this universe on other frequency ranges that we can't access. So when these entities are operating outside of the visible light human frequency range, we can't see them. And they find it difficult to come into our frequency range because they're a different frequency entity. So what they've done is they created hybrid bloodlines, which we call the Illuminati bloodlines, and they have a greater infusion of reptilian genetics. From what people have told me, there's more copper in the blood of these hybrids, and thus in a certain chemical process, their blood turns a greeny-blue color, which they tell me is the reason for calling these aristocratic and royal bloodlines the blue bloods. So what they've done is created representatives within the frequency range visible light that we experience to run this reality, our world, on behalf of these hidden masters. And the thing is that if you have everything in the end, again, this is mainstream science and quantum physics if you get into it, everything, no matter how solid it looks, its basis is a vibrational information field. It's a frequency field, a waveform field that is vibrating to a certain frequency. If it vibrates to a very slow frequency, then it manifests in our world as something that's really solid, like a rock or a wooden table. If it's vibrating much quicker, it becomes much more ethereal in the way that it manifests in our reality. And so, therefore, if you can get the genetics closer to these entities, then there is a vibrational compatibility, a frequency compatibility with these hybrid bloodlines that is much closer to these hidden entities than the general run of the global population. Therefore, and again, this is an ancient theme that goes back as far as known human history, possession, that is still being talked about today, and it's true. These entities possess, because of this vibrational compatibility they have, much greater than the general human population. They can control, connect with, and control their mental, what passes for their emotional processes, and therefore...
So basically we're like robots for them. All I know is this, David.
Yeah, well, just let me say this, Alex, because this will really simplify in a minute what I'm trying to say. You know, when scientists are they're working with material that's too dangerous, so the material goes into a tank, and the scientists stand outside the tank, and they put their arms in the tank through those big long gloves so that they can work with the material while being outside the tank.
Yes.
If you take that tank to be our world, you take the scientists to be these entities, and you take those gloves to be the Illuminati bloodlines that run the world at the moment. That's the dynamic. That's the relationship between them. So these people, like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the British royal families, they're just puppets in their own way as well. But because they look human and have different names, they hide the fact that there is a specific force behind this, which is orchestrating all of this stuff. And these gods, as they perceive them, they're the gods that these bloodlines do the rituals to, do the sacrifice to. For this reason, when they are sacrificing someone, there is a release of absolute terror, and that energy of terror, of fear, of unbelievable levels of terror, that is absorbed by these entities, and they feed off it. It's their sustenance. And then at the same time, when this imaginable level of terror is manifest, a particular adrenaline enters the bloodstream, and the Satanists in human form, shall we say, that are performing the ritual within our world, they then drink the blood with that adrenaline in it, and they get a high, just like the highest drug you can imagine. They go crazy. And if people ever watch that movie series Blade, when they went crazy in the rituals with the blood and everything, that is based on fact. That's what happens. That's what some of the most famous people on this planet are doing. And this is the chasm we have to leap.
Well, look, all I know is the globalist, when I was at Bohemian Grove 11 years ago and stuck in, they were taking it serious. They were in high religious reverence.
Right.
And there's no doubt the elites do believe that they are involved in the occult, skull and bones, all of it, and that is our ruling class. And there's no doubt that every culture has these legends, and that every culture then manifested human sacrifice, blood drinking, all of this. So why did every human culture do this? Because I'll tell you right now, I, as just a normal human, have zero. In fact, I have a negative desire to drink blood or sacrifice somebody. So why in every ruling class, in every culture, does this manifest? That's what adds credence to what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Alex, it's the genetics. What genetics is to these people who understand, I mean, they're genetic, obsessed with genetics, which to them is a form of technology.
Well, they knew about it before it happened. They said we're going to discover the DNA. We're going to have eugenics 160 years ago, and they pioneered the whole system.
Yeah, and the genetics is like a software program. And the software program in these hybrid bloodlines includes a desire to do all the things that the vast majority of the rest of the population would find, beyond belief that anyone could do it, like blood drinking sacrifice. It's in the genetics. It's like a software program playing through them, and therefore, I've said so many times over the last 21 years since I started going into all this, if people perceive what these bloodlines would do on the basis of what they themselves would or would not do, you've completely lost the plot. Because if we could look through the eyes, Alex, of these hybrid bloodlines, the Rockefellers, the Royals, the Rothschilds, etc., we would be beyond shocked at the way they were perceiving reality compared with the way most humans perceive reality. You see, one of the things, this is a really important point, one of the things that this software program, I'm calling these hybrid bloodlines, one of the key things that's been deleted from them is empathy. The ability to feel for the consequences and the feelings of others that you put in terrible positions. That empathy is a fail-safe mechanism for human behavior, because we look in a child's face, Alex, and the thought of sacrificing that child, the thought of terrorizing that child, of sexually abusing that child, the very empathy alone deletes anything.
No, it's more than that. It's more than that. I'm like Tony Montana. I'm ready to kill anybody who wants to hurt a child. I don't have a lust for violence and things like that, except when somebody's hurting a child. I'm ready to kick 20 people's ass, David. The thought of somebody hurting a child, I'm ready to stomp 20 people on the ground. And I'm not a tough guy, but I'm ready to absolutely open a can of clobbering in time. And so I can't, and that's why good people are blind. We can't imagine that the evil is even into this.
Yeah, the point I'm making is, though, that process of feeling empathy for the suffering of the child, they do not have the ability to feel that. This is the key, because this hybrid genetics has deleted that. It's deleted it on purpose, because you don't want people representing your horrific agenda for humanity if they have a conscience. The last thing that you want, because that's going to make it much more difficult to get those people.
So in your research, I would have zero of this hybrid stuff if I feel absolutely violent towards anybody who wants to hurt a child.
Well, no, what I would say is, you know, if you have a feeling that you can hurt people, and anybody, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about in general, hurt people, and not have any feelings for the what they are suffering, what they are feeling as the result of your actions, well, that is a lack of empathy. And this is why pepper bombing Baghdad, pepper bombing Libya, Tripoli, Sirte, full of civilians, killing 2,000 people on 9/11. For the rest of us, the feeling of empathy with their suffering, with their trauma, with
it's
their
overwhelming.
horror,
it's torture.
With the parents and the loved ones of people on 9/11, that alone would stop us even thinking or dreaming about doing it. You delete that, Alex, there are no limits, there are no buffer stops on behavior, and because there are no emotional
Well, let me expand on that, though. Have you seen the little 3-year-old girl with the whole lower mandible blown off with the tongue hanging out, screaming in panic and pain? For us, that's torture, but you're saying for the Illuminati, that's music. Look, Alex. Let's look at this again in a very simple way. If you are capable, without empathy, without feeling, to sacrifice a child and go through the ritual that builds up and builds up and builds up to it, building systematically the terror in that child, are you going to give a damn about a child blown apart by a NATO bomb? No, you're going to think it's great. You're going to think it's fun. In so many ways, mate, that little 12-second clip of Hillary Clinton glorifying in the death of Gaddafi that's been going around the internet, that absolutely, in a very, very encapsulated 12-second way, very mild compared with what they do in the shadows. We came, we saw, he died.
Encapsulated these people's attitude to the human population.
Yeah, we came, we saw, he died. And the reporter giggles with demonic pleasure. Hillary, and the word is, they had agreed to have him surrender. Hillary was what the sign. She landed. They set him up. He came out in a white flag, and they killed him.
Yeah, absolutely. And until we breach this chasm and realize what we're really dealing with, a level of what people call evil. I mean, that's even a word that doesn't describe it. A level of darkness of beyond our imagination to comprehend where the depths that they're coming from. That is the power that is running NATO, that is running governments, that is running the banking system. This is why, let's look at this again, this is why they'll crash the banking system to get a massive problem to which they can advance their agenda with a solution. But look at the people in tent cities across America. I could bloody cry when I see it. And decent people with their families who are out of work and can't pay their mortgage because of the banks who then come across and take their house away. And they can do that. They can look at the television every night and see this stuff and go on the internet, and they can see the suffering of vast numbers of people in Greece, in America, and all over the world. They can see the unbelievable suffering in what's become the third world, where they make their products for cents on a dollar in starvation wages in sweatshops, and then ship them across the world and charge as much as they can get for them. They can do that. They can do all of that. This is the mentality that's behind it. The same mentality that can sacrifice a child will have no problem doing that to vast numbers of people.
Well, David, it's more than that. And this is why I want to close with you in the last 5-6 minutes we have left. The genetic engineering, the UN releasing mosquitoes that forcibly inoculate us, Bill Gates making jokes about killing grandma to create 10 jobs, the reduction in fertility, the autism exploding, this culture of death. I want David Icke to tell us now, whatever these psychopaths are, they might as well be blood drinking whatevers. I mean, they're psycho demons, whatever they are, who don't have empathy and who don't have a soul and who are my eternal enemy. What is their end game? You say they're running out of time, but if they had their way, what are we facing? What's coming up, this great challenge? What do they want to set up in this world? Because no doubt the awakening's happening. They're coming in both feet down, trying to keep us down. David Icke, what are we about to see? What is their end game, and how does the battle end? How does it unravel? Sum it up.
Well, just very quickly to start with, you mentioned there the obsession with death. We think about radio stations. If you're broadcasting on Radio 1, you're not going to connect with Radio 2. It's on a different frequency. If you therefore are going to absorb energy, which is your sustenance, then you've got to get that energy on the frequency of Radio 1, your frequency. And the frequency of these people, by their very, very nature, because our frequency is dictated by our attitudes and everything, is low vibrational. It's the same frequency range as low vibrational human emotion. So the more that fear, anxiety, frustration, but anything surrounding death and destruction is generating the very energy from humanity that you are taking your sustenance from. This is why they're obsessed with death and everything to do with death. To them, you see, when you pepper bomb Tripoli, you're creating a vast explosion by what you do to those people and decent people.
Sure, it's blood in the water, so they're trying to create death and destruction.
Because that creates the very energy that they absorb. Love, appreciation, kindness, peace. These are energy frequencies that they can't access. This is why they don't want that in the world.
Well, that's why the television is designed to lower the overall brainwave.
Exactly, and the movies and all that stuff. But in terms of the end game, what they are looking for is a vastly reduced global population, vastly reduced, and that would be beyond what we perceive as slaves now. They would eventually be manipulated specifically. This was in Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, specifically bred to be slaves, to have enough intelligence to serve as a slave, but nothing like enough intelligence to realize that they're slaves in their situation, so they would just do it without question. They want a network of mind control, constant mind control, which they're now starting to bring in through these smart grids and these light bulbs, these so-called energy-saving light bulbs. What they are, actually, it sounds crazy, but it's not. They are transmitters of information. And, in my new book coming out in January, I've quoted the scientists who've looked into the way of transmitting information through the electrical system, and they've explained how it's been done through this woodpecker signal that came out of the Soviet Union and through other means, even with the grid that we have now. And what the smart grids are with these smart meters, and I've just come from Australia, they're kicking up a fuss there, they're kicking up a fuss about them in California.
No, they admit they can cause cancer, so they can beam whatever frequency they want.
Exactly.
They're in your house, and they admit, it was on the news today, even San Francisco Chronicle, the smart meters can even with an algorithm tell what you're watching on TV.
Yes, exactly. And so this smart meter grid, this smart grid, which they want to connect in every country, and in every country connected to a global network, it is a purpose-built surveillance operation, so that they, like you quite rightly say, can see the fine detail of your lives through the communications with the operating center. But also,
they admit that, by the way. They admit they're putting up nationwide street lights that listen and videotape you.
Yeah, exactly. But the key thing beyond that is that they can send information the other way, and through this delivery system, which these light bulbs are a big part of it, they're delivering within the frequency range of human brain activity information which people are designed to decode as their own thoughts and perceptions. It's a mass mind control operation, and so there's so many elements to it. But what they want is this the population, human population, that comes into this world through not even procreation, as Brave New World talked about eventually, but through laboratory means. And where they are produced in batches. And
that's why they have to destroy our fertility, so we have to go to them to have them born in a laboratory where they can then put in the Trojan horses as they want, and you actually get a child that looks like you, but it's not even your child. You can see this program, this plan. David, promise me that before the new book comes out in January that you will join us again here on air. But in closing, because I got Mike Adams, waiting to come in here.
Yeah, Mike's a great guy. I love his stuff.
He's awesome, but I keep you for 10 hours. I would, but and I'm sorry that we didn't get your email till earlier with the phone number, crazy internet stuff. But in closing, all of this, though, to give hope from my gut is because the system is panicking and they have failed and they're scared.
Well, this is the key point. You see, I make the very strong difference between what I call consciousness, which is the infinite, eternal self, and what I call mind-body, which is the interface. It's like a computer. It's like people say I'm going on the internet, but we don't go on the internet. The computer does, and we
so even if they program us, our soul still knows.
Yeah. What I'm saying, what I'm going quickly with this. I know you're running out of time, but it's an important point. We go on the internet through the computer. Now, what if the computer started becoming detached from us sitting at the keyboard, and we were smacking the mouse and smacking the keyboard and nothing was happening, and now the computer is deciding where it's going on the internet and what he thinks of it? That is the dynamic of the human condition. The system is structured to pull us into five-sense reality only, and then program through eyes and ears information, which they control, our perception of reality. What is happening now, is that people are opening their minds and letting consciousness in to that perception process. And when they do, they can see things suddenly. Why didn't I see it before? It's so obvious. Well, because you're looking at the world from another level of consciousness now. This is what's happening. This is what they're terrified of, because they know if enough people do this, game over. Because they can only control us through body-mind. They can't control us through consciousness. And therefore, the more people that awaken, and my goodness, the exponential curve now is extraordinary, the more this system loses its grip on human perception. And it loses its grip on human perception, it loses its grip on human enslavement.
Well, that was my final question, is that the more they attack us, the more we resist. All I see is an awakening. And I see the system...
It's incredible. The number of the people, you'll know this, Alex. People listening to this program will know this. How people now, who you'd have said, never them, never her, never him, never. And they're now going, hold on a second, this has started to make sense. And you're going, not you. People are now awakening who, a very short time ago, mate, would have laughed this stuff in the face. And that's the level of transformation that's now going. And we've seen nothing yet. But, of course, as this happens, the cornered rat is going to throw everything at us to try to hold on to its power. And there's going to be a lot of challenges, and it's going to be a lot of upheaval, and it's going to create as much chaos as it can so that we get pulled in the five senses of fear and anxiety and, oh, my God. But it's not got the power to ultimately prevail. It's not. But it can cause a lot of problems for us, as it already is.
And that's what the new war is about. That's what it's all about. Yeah. What's the name of the new book coming out?
Remember Who You Are. And it's a multiple. It's not just about that one, thing that comes to mind when you say that. It's a massive tapestry of information. But remember who you are. Yeah, you're not Ethel Jones. You're not Charlie Smith. You're not your job. You're not your income bracket. You're not your color or your race. That's what you're experiencing. You are consciousness, all-powerful, infinite, eternal consciousness. All that is, can be, and ever will be. And when we move to that perception of self, to that self-identity, suddenly, power's little me, I just work down the store, forget it. That's an experience. It's not who you are. And this recognition of our true self and our true power is what's going to bring this house of cards down. Because the house of cards is held together by us believing the illusion that we're only little me.
David, not only is the public on fire, the general population waking up, I don't think in probably 50 interviews, just a guesstimation, I've ever heard you this energized. In fact, it's painful to even end this interview with you now because I can't imagine what else you have to say. You sound like you are on fire right now.
Oh yeah, I am. I'm energized. You know what it's like. You know when you're banging your head against a wall and you get a headache, and then suddenly the wall starts to crumble. You think, hey, I'll bang it some more now. And to see the light go on in so many people. I mean, the 2,000 people turning up in just one part of Australia, which has a population of only 22 million. I mean, there were 6 other events as well as that, and we're moving. And I'm just coming into America. I'm talking in Cleveland, Ohio, next Saturday, and then New York the Sunday after that. And I'm looking forward to going to the Wall Street protest and seeing what's really going on there.
Wait a minute. You're in the U.S.? Well, let us during the main show. Let me put you on hold right now. I know Ventura's people want to call you right now about getting you on the show. They're listening right now. They're about to call your hotel room there on the other side of the planet in New Zealand. But what about Jaron emailing you, and so we can really have a full discussion? This quickening is accelerating. How about you come on when you're here in the U.S.?
Yeah, no problem.
Do they go to davidicke.com to find tickets and all that?
Yeah. It's very simple. If they go to davidicke.com, it's all there. Yeah, but it's amazing what's happening, Alex. It really is. And
well, David, I'll say this in closing, and I'm going to go to break and say bye to you during the break, and then Michael's going to give you a call from Ventura's people, but I can feel it. I mean, whatever it is, whether you're right or wrong, this is not of this world. Like the devil, as Christians say, whatever. There is a system of evil tying things together that you can only describe as extraordinary and anti-human, and whatever it is. Some group consciousness of the psychopaths together, whatever it is, it's got to be met. And I can feel the victory coming. Few of us are well known and actually can be recognized. The general public feels like they're alone. That's the point I made at the start of this interview, is that you're known, I'm known, a few others are known. We see how many people are awake. I want folks to take heart and realize the numbers of awake people is swelling, and as you said, the cornered rat is going to strike.
Yes, it is, but it's not going to prevail. It's not going to prevail. It's striking out of panic to a large extent because it's trying to keep the lid on this. It's no accident that it's the same time that this awakening is happening is the same time that they're throwing everything they can at us. It's because they're trying to keep the lid on this, and they can't, and therefore they better get used to it.
Well, all I can say is excellent job with everything you're doing, David, davidicke.com. Again, where all are you speaking in the U.S.?
Cleveland, Ohio, in a week Saturday, and then New York the following Sunday.
I need to get out to one of those events. David, I still have never met you in person.
I know. Come to New York, mate.
I guess I can let the TSA grab me. You know what? Is that not slave training for these serpents to put their hands on us?
Oh yeah. I mean, all this stuff of the rub down for children and stuff. It's preparing children to find that totally acceptable. I've mentioned in the new book, efforts, and I'm sure you've come across them, efforts to make pedophilia and sex with children to acceptable and a normal part of stuff. And what we're seeing with the so-called human rights, UN human rights of the child and all that stuff. Some of it sounds good on the surface, but it's all part of a massive tapestry of removing power of the parents over the lives of the child, and so giving it to the state under the illusion of giving it to the child. This is why these horrendous bloody vaccines that they're doing for girls and offering it for getting in for boys now. That some states are, or some authorities are saying that the girl must have the right to decide if they have it, not the parents. So it's all part of this eroding of parental influence over their children, because the state wants the kids. And Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, it's all in there.
Well, David Icke, we're going to go to this little promo for the Money Bomb we're doing right now, and I'll say bye to you during this break. Okay. And then we're going to come back with Mike Adams for the next 2 hours with a bunch of guests fighting against those that wish to take people's access to raw milk. But again, the system is scared. I mean, you agree with that, David? What's the time frame until it's clear that these creatures are being routed?
Yeah, the greatest fear is that their source of sustenance and source of slavery will be lost. And that manifests out in so many different ways. It's fear.
All right, I'm going to talk to you during the break. I want to set you up right now because I want to do a whole other interview. You're on fire. David Icke, Mike Adams coming up with breaking news, Gerald Celente, and more. Stay with us. Our mission at Infowars.com is to audit the Fed, abolish the Fed, restore the Constitution, abolish the TSA, restore the Second Amendment, restore the Constitution, restore the Republic. And if you believe in those goals, then it is your free will, responsibility, and honor to spread the word about our operation and to donate to the 2011 Money Bomb. For many years, I tried to basically stay small, make my films, do my radio show. But it grew and grew and grew. Think about how a money bomb that listeners started 4 years ago led to us being able to move into this bigger office. A later money bomb helped us expand into the empty warehouse next door. And in the last year, we have built the TV studios and put the equipment in and are now doing a nightly news show every night at 7 o'clock that we're now beta testing and getting ready for television. Right now going out to members at prisonplanet.tv and then reaching millions as it spills out onto YouTube and other systems. Help us go to the next level. Not reaching 15 million a week, but reaching 30, 40, 50 million a week. Our growth curve is exponential, but we need to hit our afterburners and turbocharge. History is happening now. The war for human liberty against total dehumanization is on now. Join us Thursday, November 3rd at Infowars.com. We're going to have a 24-hour plus live transmission with guests and interviews starting at 11 a.m. and running into my next radio show the next day. We're going to have a huge lineup of liberty-loving patriots from all over the world joining us. It's going to be amazing. And this money bomb is going to have a lot of new things added to it that's going to make it even more powerful than past years. So please donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or Infowars.com/moneybomb, or simply spread the word about the money bomb. Stand with Infowars.com and my incredible crew and all of our other supporters and help us get the word out even more. The ball is in your court. The rest is up to you. It's Infowars Money Bomb 2011.